Hello everybody, it's Dr. Peter, the cake wine lover. Welcome, hello. Today is the first time I'll be doing my live wine tasting. I'm so excited.
Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Good day, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Thornton Pillay. He is the winemaker at Highgate Wines, and welcome to About the Winelands, Thornton.
Thank you so much for having me, Will.
It's my pleasure. Tell us a little bit, how did you get involved in the wine industry, and how long have you been a winemaker?
I was born and raised in Durban and lived a typical suburban lifestyle. My parents have been involved in the agricultural industry for many years, working at Freshmark. With regular farm visits with my dad, this inspired me to pursue a career in agriculture. I then attended high school at Western Agricultural College in Moiriver, where I was able to experience various agricultural practices such as livestock, dairy, and poultry until I matriculated in 2009. During my matric year, I was introduced to viticulture and oenology via a seminar which was conducted by the Department of Forestry and Fisheries, known as DAF. Shortly after the seminar, I was awarded a bursary to pursue a career in viticulture and oenology, where I then applied at Stellenbosch University, and I was accepted to study towards a bachelor's degree in viticulture and oenology at Altenburg Agricultural College in 2010. This was a 3-year course, and upon graduating in 2012, I then applied to be part of the Cape Winemakers Guild Protege program. Here in 2013, I was one of 3 graduates selected to join a 3-year mentorship program, which was sponsored by Nedbank. During my first year of internship, I was placed under the watchful eye of Louis Stradom at Ernie Els Wine. During my second year of internship in 2014, I chose to be at Crude Constantia and was mentored by Bula Gerber. It was during this year that I was given the opportunity to produce my own style of wine. I had created a naturally sweet wooded muscadel. It's a sweet style similar to that of the Grand Constant. I was also given the opportunity during my second year of internship to be a part of an international harvest. The CWG program had sent me over to Burgundy, which is in France, and here I was exposed to premium quality Chardonnay and Pinot Noir at Comte Armand in Pommard. In 2015, I was then headhunted by KWV to be the assistant winemaker for the Mentos range and white wine. And after a year's worth of experience and knowledge gained, I then moved back to KZN and found that Highgate Wine Estate was looking for a winemaker. I then contacted the owner, Mr. Rudy Cassia, and my journey of growing vines and producing wines in KZN had begun.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I mean, how are you enjoying it there in being back in KZN? It must be it's quite a change from Stellenbosch, right?
It's quite opposite. In terms of winemaking, it's the opposite to the rest of the world. However, it's quite nice to also be close to my family.
Yeah, I can believe that. So, could you share us a little bit of the history of Highgate Estate and how did they start making wine there in KZN?
Okay, so I relocated back to KZN at the end of 2015, and on arrival, I came across a message on a mutual winemaker group that there was a wine farm in KZN in need of a winemaker. I then made contact with the owner, Mr. Rudy Cassia, and I was then appointed as winemaker in 2016. Um, Initially, Highgate Wine Estate was purchased by Mr. Cassia in 1996. At that time it was a vegetable farm producing lettuce and carrots, to name a few, under hydroponics. From here, Mr. Cassier had then opened up a farm stall in which he sold fresh veggies daily to the public. By 2002, he had then opened the coffee shop at Piggly Wiggly. And in 2004, with the aid from Sadara Agricultural College, a trial was done in planting vineyards. Here it started off just under a hectare of 25 different varietals, with major plantings being Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinotage, Shiraz, and Chardonnay, as well as Merlot. In 2010, Highgate Wine Estate was the first to have certified a Chardonnay from KZN origin. And between 2010 and 2016, the owner produced wine as a hobby. However, when I joined the Highgate Wine Estate in 2016 as the winemaker, the winemaking had now become professional, and the brand of Highgate Wine Estate was established. From here on, I worked on the vineyards in getting them back to optimal production. Through major vineyard therapy, I was able to increase production. To give you an idea, in 2016 when I arrived, we only produced 1,500 bottles. 2017 went up to 4,500 bottles. 2018 we produced 6,000 bottles. 2019 we were on 16,000 bottles, and this year we reached a high of 15,000 bottles as well.
That's incredible. How many hectares do you have under vines?
We currently just have under 5 hectares of vineyard, of which around half of it is in production of grapes, while the others are in the first and second year growth. Sorry.
And do you have space to expand? Do you have land to expand on?
Yes, we do have around about a 10-year planting program that we have. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah, so our ultimate goal is to get around 17 hectares up to 20 hectares in total of vineyards.
Awesome. So besides, I mean, now you're making wine, and you said the owner at a coffee shop. What else if a visitor comes to you, are you open for visitors? And if somebody comes to the farm, what can they experience there?
Yes. So to date, I have created about 12 different products offered to the public to experience. At the estate, we offer various tasting options. Bearing in mind, these are 100% estate wines from the grapes produced on the estate. We do have our morning tasting, which comprises of our unwooded Chardonnay, Rosé, and Syrah, and our Chardonnay tasting, which comprises of the unwooded Chardonnay, the partially wooded Chardonnay, and the wooded Chardonnay. I also have red wine that's up for tasting, which comprises of the Highgate Pinotage, our Merlot, the Highgate Cabernet Sauvignon, and the Black Edition Cabernet Sauvignon. We're not doing a tasting of our very own grappa. This comprises of 3 grappas, a plain white spirit grappa of 43%, and 2 flavored grappas, a wild berry and a blueberry flavored, that are both 18% alcohol and sweet.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
We have a chocolate. Yes, it is. It's really a great experience. We also have, we now have a chocolate and wine tasting, which comprises of the 3 wines paired perfectly with 3 different chocolates, and the wild berry flavored grappa that's paired with Turkish delight. With this, we also have a cheese and wine pairing, which comprises of 3 different wines with 3 different cheeses. And apart from all these tastings, we also have added experiences such as cellar and vineyard tours and a wine etiquette workshop. We also open our doors to photo shoots, weddings, engagements, and corporate functions.
Oh, that's amazing. So quite a few things going on there. When you say, how many guests can you guys accommodate in your corporate functions?
We currently can go up to, I think it's around 80 guests, if I'm not mistaken. But if it's bigger, then we can make use of the external areas that we have.
Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support our country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation, www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show.
Quite,
Can you stay over on the farm? Is there accommodation?
um, there are various outlets, Airbnbs and hotels around the country
In the
area.
area?
There are places for accommodation, not necessarily on the farm, however, short distances actually.
I saw on your website that you also advertise residential real estate. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we are a country estate that comprises of various shops, clothing stores, food outlets, and the wine cellar, where the wines are produced and tasting room is available. This is the first and only concept of a residential wine estate in KZN, which makes us unique to have the only residential wine estate with commercial shops and a wine estate that
Wow.
produces our own wines from the grapes grown on the estate. With that being said, we do also offer our facilities to neighboring farmers that produce grapes. However, their wines will be made solely for their personal use and not mixed in with our 100% estate wines. The residential estate comprises of 26 houses with a unique architectural design that is upmarket with beautiful views over the mountains. The spaces between the residential houses have no walls between them, but do have vineyards planted between them, which brings about a free living environment and privacy. The residents are within walking distance of the various 23 different shops we have available, which comprises of food stores, clothing stores, the wine cellar, and tasting room, with the putt-putt course and a zip line that goes over the vineyards as an entertainment entity. We also have a park run that we do every Saturday and a pine forest that the people can walk through, which is quite
Wow.
good and upcoming. Yeah.
Well, that sounds awesome. So tell us, back to the important stuff, the wines. Can you tell us a bit more about the wines you're producing and also um, your, your winemaking philosophy?
Sure thing. To date, I'm producing 100% estate wines at Highgate Wine Estate with the wine of origin, KwaZulu Natal. All grapes are grown and produced by myself on the estate from berry to bottle. I'm currently producing single variety wines, um, and I have blended two blends, which will be released during this year, hopefully after the lockdown. In terms of my winemaking philosophy, I believe that above all other requirements, a true passion and drive for winemaking is the foundation of producing a premium wine. With these attributes, you are able to overcome challenges and discover your true capabilities. If you love what you do, it shows. This positive energy spreads to others and motivates people to give off their best efforts. Positive thinking, willingness to learn, good communication and understanding one's strengths and weaknesses also allows us to work effectively in a team, as every person involved in the wine industry makes an invaluable contribution.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So your wines, where are they sold? Are you exporting any of them, or they're all sold locally? What's the situation?
Um, we are currently selling our wines locally. We are currently producing around 16,000 bottles, more or less, per annum, which is suitable for our local market. However, we are in discussion of entering the export market and targeting upcoming markets such as Middle Africa.
It's awesome. I think it seems a lot of people are targeting the African market because there seems to be a price premium in Africa. Do you find that to be true?
I agree. It is a market that is untouched, where like the demand is high but the supply is low. So I think if we can tap into that, we can really, set the boundaries and continue to export our wines to those areas.
Yeah. So, okay, well, the other thing that's happened lately is we are all under lockdown. I think. I just wanted to ask you: Are you currently you are on the farm and still working, right?
Yes, I do go in. Well, currently I'm on lockdown, but I do go in to do my necessary checks on the vineyards,
Okay.
and the wines actually.
Mm-hmm. So what about any new ideas during this lockdown? Have you thought about online sales or anything similar?
Yeah, so basically, since the pandemic had started, it has really brought me some time into thinking of and creating new ideas and products for the market. And now that we are on level 4, I will then begin my trials on these products.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
Nothing has been solid yet, as we are waiting to be reunited with everyone at the cellar. But as soon as the lockdown is over and we are permitted, we will be doing deliveries throughout SA with discounted rates of our wine.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Well, for me, being able to produce wines in a challenging area like KZN has really tested the foundation of my knowledge and experience. KZN being a summer rainfall region, which is a complete opposite to the rest of the world, brings about major challenges with growing the vineyard, as powdery mildew and downy mildew becomes a threat to us. But I always say by sticking to the basic principles, these challenges have will be overcome and this can be done by following strict viticultural practices.
Okay, that's awesome. So, can you give us your very own wine quote?
Yeah, so I do have a few, but I chose one that I really enjoy. My
Oh,
quote goes as, "The best wine blend includes friends, family, and laughter."
I like that. That is actually
Yeah.
a very good one. So, Thornton, it's been a pleasure talking to
Thank
you.
you.
If people want to get hold of Highgate Estate and your wines, how do they go about that?
We have various platforms that we make use of. So we have social media such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as which links up to our website. And from there, all our information is available to the public. Our address is on there, contact details, email addresses, etc.
So, Thornton, thank you very, very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to influencers and leaders in the wine industry, winemakers, restaurants, and other businesses. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you do not miss out. Now, to get on with the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Ilse Rathford from Companies Drift. Welcome, Ilse.
Glad to be with you and
Yes,
nice meeting you.
yes, nice meeting you as well. Hopefully I can meet you in person very soon.
Yes, that would be good.
Ilse, tell us a bit about yourself and how you became involved with the wine industry.
I've been in the wine industry since 1997, so it's almost just a little bit over the 20 years.
Wow.
After I matriculated from Bloom of Gold's, I studied marketing at Boland College in Stellenbosch, and I did the prelim and certificate wine course through the Cape Wine Academy. And from there, I decided to join the wine industry. After studying, I started working as a casual on a wine farm in Franschhoek. And from there, I enjoyed it and then moved to different wine farms and to gain experience in the various fields that the wine industry had to offer.
Wow, that's quite a start. You know, you basically worked yourself up right from the beginning.
From washing glasses, doing wine tastings, and then also doing the admin. And for a few years, I also did freight forwarding
Oh,
before I joined the Meerless family in November 2006.
okay. And I see Companies Drift is the outflow from Meerlus. So can you give us a bit of history about Compagnie's Drift and what you guys do and how it started?
Companies Drift opened its doors on the 1st of December 2010. So this year we will be 10 years old. And it was initiated by the owners of Meerlis, the Meyerburg Family Trust. And they were looking for a long-term investment that would have been beneficial for the workers. And originally, Companies Drift started out as a 50-50 partnership between the Meerlis Workers Trust and the Meyerburg Family Trust. But since the 1st of July 2019, we are a 100% Black empowerment company.
Wow, so the Workers' Trust now own 100%.
Yes, and the Workers' Trust consists out of 72 workers of the farms Meerlis, Companies Drift, Ken Forrester, and also Friesenhof.
Oh, that's an amazing story. So I see that you guys provide a range of services to clients, from bottling to
Yeah.
labeling. Can you explain a little bit more on that?
Our main service that we offer to the wine industry is wine storage. Then we also offer wine labeling, reworks, and container loading services to our wine producers. Up to last year, we had an in-house bottler, but they moved to their own premises during June last year. So currently, I applied for funds to install our own mobile bottling line. That would also be an additional service and would be beneficial for us.
Awesome. So the storage that you do, is that in casks or in bottles? How do you store the wine?
We store in bottles, unlabeled in bins, and then also the finished product in cartons. We don't do storage of any bulk wine.
Okay, so your clients would basically bottle their wines, and then when it's ready to be sold or exported or whatever, then it's transported from you guys again,
Yes,
from your facility again. Are you still involved
yes.
in the forwarding and the freight part of it as well?
No, but it helped me quite a lot. So I understand the process. It's much easier for me understanding the whole chain from as when the bottle come into us and when it leaves for exports. So I'm an admin person and a perfectionist when it comes to paperwork. So I always make sure that when we prepare export orders, that everything is in order and will not load anything if it's not correct.
Yeah, I mean your storage facility itself is basically just logistic exercise anyway, so you're
Yes,
part of that
yeah.
chain. So where are your largest clients?
Meerlist, of course, and then Neil Ellis, Ken Forrester, Friesenhof, and then Lismore. I'm not sure if you know or met Samantha yet of Greyton.
No, actually I haven't. I would love to speak to her at some time.
Yes, yeah. So that we have 50 customers that make use of our services, but the few that I gave you now, they are the biggest.
Okay, so I see if you've also expanded to wine under your own label. Could you expand a little bit more on this?
We have our own vineyards, and currently Meerlis look after it, and they also maintain it. So, which means that we have easy access to good wine, and therefore we decided to produce wines under our own label, and we did that and started with that during 2015. We have a small range of wines. It consists out of 3 wines, Chardonnay Pinot Noir blend, a Chardonnay unhooded, and then a red wine, which is a Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot blend.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, and it's easy drinking, pocket-friendly wines. And we are also launching a special wine, which is a natural sweet wine very soon. But I don't want to spoil the surprise. So
Okay.
wait and see. It's a special project that I started.
All right. Well, that's good. What we'll do is when you're ready to launch a special project, I'll chat to you about that specifically.
Yes, it's very close to my heart, and it's gonna be awesome.
Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support our country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation: www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show.
So your wines that you make, your own wines, where are they sold? Do you export any of them, or they're just sold in South Africa? Where are they sold?
It's mostly in restaurants and bottle stores in the Western Cape and Johannesburg. We're not in any retail stores yet, like Checkers or Macro. As you know, that's a real mission, getting our wines into big stores.
Mhm.
And every year we try and submit samples, but we are positive, and hopefully during this year we will be able to be in a big store like Macro or Checkers. And then recently I had an export to Singapore, and then we also export to Norway. And it is my aim that this year I want to expand and like to explore and invest more into exports.
Okay, that's interesting. Could you, how easy is it for you guys to increase your production to if there's a big export demand?
Because we, for now, it's okay because we do have access to extra wine, but in future we will look at the other option to buy in.
Okay, that's interesting. So also see you have a wine club. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, it's very small at the moment because it's difficult because we don't have a tasting room. So we only have a few private clients that order from us on a regular basis. And we also applied for funds to have a tasting room in the near future. And I think if we have a tasting room, it will be easier for us to grow a wine club and build our own customer base. But it is available, and if people would like to join, they can do so. And the link is on our website, and they can also order um,
So
via our wine if they're interested.
what do people get when they join your wine club? Well, how does it work?
It's for now. It's only that they get a 10% discount, and but we will arrange for delivery, and then we just send regular newsletters. But as I say, we need to expand and we need to grow, and I think it will be easier if we have our tasting room and we'll be able to build our own customer base.
Well, you guys are on the right location for a tasting room.
Yes,
So
yes.
what
Yeah,
about space for expansion? You know, to add a tasting room and say maybe later on a restaurant. Do you guys have space on your property?
yes. When our in-house bottler moved to their own premises last year, some of the space became available. So we do have office space that we will renovate and change into a tasting room. And we also have additional parking space. So everything is there. I'm just waiting for the funds to be approved.
Always the money that makes the world go round, isn't it?
Yes, that I think that is the biggest mission. It's the process and the frustration and the delays if you apply for funding. And we are a new business, and that's the biggest thing that we cannot afford to apply for extra loans. If we can get grants, that will work for us.
In terms of grants, are you registered as a non-profit or is it actually a business operation, your trust?
No, we are a private company, but we receive lots of support from DEF, the National Department of Agriculture, and also from Western Cape government, and then also the new South African Transformation Unit that started up a few years ago. They also support and help us quite a lot with funding.
Oh, that's awesome. So the other thing that's happened lately is this whole coronavirus thing, and it's forced every one of us to rethink our business models. What is your thoughts about that? And do you have any changes or new ideas in mind? Maybe online sales?
Yeah, with regards to sales, I just joined wine.co.za, and I'm part of the Seller Direct sales now. And with regards to the production facility, all that we can do is make sure that we practice good hygiene. And it's actually not so easy for a production facility because mostly of our work, it's done by hand. When we have to do reworks for customers, we have to apply an additional importer sticker by hand. And also on our labeling line, we require more than 5 people to be present to do QC and actually remove bottles from the line that's not suitable for packing. But what we're trying to do is that when people come in, or our staff, we will be testing their fever and you will be sent home. If you're not well, and we will wash the hands regularly. And then we will not start with a full team. We will start with and work with minimum people.
Okay, well, I suppose that's nothing more that you can do, right?
Yes, yeah. I think it's difficult for everyone. And we just have to make sure that our systems are in place and just take it from there.
No, absolutely. So yourself, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
I love the wine industry. I don't think that I would fit in or want to work in any other industry. It's one of the most diverse and colorful industries that has such a lot to offer. And it's also an industry where many people stand together. Now with this COVID-19, I'm so amazed to see how Vinpro, Hosa, and Selva are standing together and supporting us and keeping our interest at heart. And that makes it all worthwhile. And I don't want to be any other place than in the wine industry.
Well, that's awesome to hear. So, as a last question, can you give us your very own wine quote or your favorite wine quote?
Believe it or not, I don't drink a wine.
Oh, my word.
But I can nose it. I do very well with recognizing cultivars and taste wine often, and will only have it with a meal. But my favorite quote is enjoy and appreciate wine.
Enjoy and appreciate wine. I like that. Thank you so much. If people want to get hold of you guys, where do they find you?
We have our website, which is www.companiesdrift.com, and we're also available on Instagram and also on Facebook.
Okay, well, we'll put all those links in the description. Joseph, thank you so much talking to us. It was a pleasure, and I cannot wait to hear from you later on again about your new wine that you have close to your heart and you're keeping as a secret to all of us.
Thank you very much, Will. It was also nice speaking to you.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Fred Hart. Fred Hart is from Uncork, SA. Welcome, Fred, to About the Winelands.
Cheers. Well, thanks very much. Great to be here.
No, it's my pleasure. How are you coping with this whole locked-in scenario?
Well, it's rather interesting. We've just added a new family member to the house, so we're fairly busy and full at home. 2 kids and a newborn, and managing thankfully to continue working new space. So busy. Obviously, very daunting to know that we might be running out of wine. Although I think I might still be safe for a couple of years or so.
Oh, that might be. I mean, I just thought we have an impending disaster coming on, but I'm just glad to hear that. So, talking about the wine, tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and how you became involved with the wine industry.
Cool. Yes. Well, and I'm born and bred Durban, which is kind of the antithesis, I suppose, of premium wine and all things fine. Born and bred Durban, can't surf to save my life. I can fall off a surfboard like you can't believe, but certainly not one you can stand on. Born and bred there, and I've came down to the Cape in 2012 from a point of view, but I've always been a really big wine lover. Brought up in a family that loves wine, and like really specifically some big Cabernet and big Bordeaux blends. So as far back as I can remember, it's been a really important part of family and celebration and lifestyle. Strange enough, I can actually still remember the day that my father, for the first time, said to me, "It's my chance to go with the wine steward or the sommelier and go pick a wine from the cellar myself." It's things like that which obviously drew me to this industry, that it forms such an integral part of special moments and family celebrations. And from there on, it's just been a love story, really.
So you've been in the wine industry a lot. I mean, your dad was in the wine industry as well, it sounds like, or in the restaurant industry.
No, so my father was actually, he's a medical doctor, still is practicing in Durban, just passionately in love with wine. I think that he's very much been brought up in that, in the old days, it was still very much acceptable to have medical reps drop off a bottle of wine to say thank you for support and service. And so many of these wines actually came from, gifts from these amazing people who used to work with my father. So we just fell in love with the product, and I think the living nature of it made it just appealing and very romantic for us as a family to enjoy together.
Awesome. So Uncork SA, how did that start?
So a bit of a strange one, really. I mean, I always thought that I'd never be somebody to play around too much on social media, but what I realize is that I really enjoy all of this stuff. I really enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy consuming and appreciating fine wine and learning about it. I think that really is the most important thing. But I found my taste and appetite for all things fine was working faster than my memory. So to be honest, when I opened Uncork SA for the very first time, the intent was to really store and keep a memory bank of all the products that I enjoyed. So it wouldn't be everything I tasted. It would be the things that I thought, one day I'm going to go back and pick this up again. I'm going to stock this in my cellar, and I'm going to, keep track of what I really enjoy. And from there, it kind of just grew fairly organically. To be honest, and very unexpectedly as well.
How long ago did you start?
It was probably three and a half years ago.
Okay.
At that stage, I was working in the wine industry, so I had the pleasure of working with one of the largest liquor suppliers in South Africa for many years. I say many years in context, 8 or 9 years. And it was really that space where I was able to, my passion for wine and spirits was able to develop further, become more than just a sideline interest, but become something that was keenly aware of, and I wanted to further enhance my skills on. So as I kind of began from 2018, probably say 2018, the beginning of 2018, I started it. And within 2 or 3 months, it started clocking up a reasonable following. And I don't think I really kept track of how many people were engaging and how many people were talking or how many people were following. It was never really that exciting for me, but it felt like other people became interested in that. And obviously it's just snowballed, and the amount of time I invest in there just really started picking up as well.
So I'm interested, right? So this is now your full-time profession. It's not just a side hobby.
No, so it is still very much a side hobby. I have
Okay.
left the liquor industry directly. I now work in the data science world, in customer data science.
Oh,
So I've left directly that space. Although what I've realized is there's still a keen interest. It has always really revolved around people. So even what I'm doing now is still the same token. What has happened is since leaving the liquor industry, I've been able to really stretch out my wings a little bit further and uncork, and start digging deeper into the area that I'm passionate about. But that being said, it's still a sideline. What it means, I suppose, for Uncork in general is that it still remains a really 100% authentic recommendation site.
well,
I
well,
have been really fortunate to have something else that drives my income, which means that I don't, it's never really about charging or making money. It's the purpose of Uncork has never been a financial gain. It's really just about indulging my own curiosity for things that are luxury.
So Uncork itself, I mean, I know you've got quite a big social media following, but is it your blog is basically your real passion, right? Is that what I understand it correctly? Is that, I mean, what other places do you have, we actually do reviews and stuff like that besides your blog, or is your blog the main thing?
Yeah, so and really on Instagram is probably the primary presence holder of Uncork. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose it was really designed that way. I found
Okay.
the visual appeal of Instagram good. It meant that it aligned very much to what I was trying to do with Uncork when it started developing. As I started crafting where I felt that it should go, and actually as I was guided by other people who follow and talk to me about it, there was some visual appeal in what was being presented on Cork, and more importantly, it helped to kind of declutter and kind of remove some stigma and overcomplication in the wine industry. A great visual, a quick description of wine, and a personal view on rating. People seem to respond to very well. So I tried a few different avenues in the beginning. I tried to play a bit more on Facebook for a while, and I toyed around on Twitter. And whilst there's presence on both, what I'm finding is, I don't get to decide myself where Uncork goes. There's a community that choose where it goes to by how they engage with the content, and the more they like and talk and want to explore different areas, the easier it is for me to understand. And I love the fact that it is very much a community, and I've almost love the idea that social media is not it's not just about sitting behind a screen and being a separate person. There's a very social element attached to it, and people sometimes forget that.
Yeah, social media gets a bad rap because people don't understand it, but it's just a platform for distributing content, whether you're phoning people or doing it on social media or talking to people over a glass of wine. It's exactly the same thing. It's engagement, right? And if you're engaging, your platform works. And like you said, the platform is decided by where people want to engage. And
Yeah, absolutely.
we're finding in our business that, I mean, although I think most of your big wine estates and stuff, their Facebook presence are still bigger than the Instagram presence. That's changing, and worldwide, your social media presence is slowly moving over. Actually, not slowly; it's fast moving away from Facebook to Instagram. And
Yeah.
I think
So
that's the trend.
it was one of the areas that I did consider. I mean, thankfully, having some kind of background in the industry and having a bit more statistical support in what I do now, there's a very clear understanding of what is coming. And I believe that Instagram was a future fit choice. Whilst it didn't start that way, I think hindsight is 2020. I'll pat myself on the back and say it was a well-grounded decision, although it was probably a fluke chance, to be honest. I do find that the platform itself is the right space for me to be playing in, as like I say, specifically around removing some complication. And the other areas I maintain. So there is still a Facebook presence, there's still a Twitter presence, and it's there, but it never really is something that would be a core focus for Uncork. Last a couple of months, we've launched a website. The website is purely carrying some of the content from social media, and eventually will engage in a more active blog And hopefully that will become a way of storing some of the reviews in a way that's easy to search and find and explore, because obviously Instagram doesn't really allow some of that functionality
Yeah, the search
too easily.
functionality is not there, right? But
Yeah.
what I'm interested in is, are you expanding into IGTV, into Instagram TV as a medium, making maybe longer type videos and putting that onto that part of the platform or not?
So I've done one or two. The purpose, I suppose, Uncork has always been a pretty faceless portfolio or profile, and intentionally so. I suppose people would much rather look at a glass of wine than my mug, which I totally get. Um, it's never really been about me, and I never intended to be. So where there's a really exciting way to express what's going on in the world of wine or with a winemaker, I certainly explore there. What I have done is a few fantastic pour shots. I've got some exceptional, really exquisite decanters, and they do so well in slow mo pours. And
I've
once in a
seen
while,
some
I
of
do that
those, yeah.
to share.
And they're
Yeah,
very
and
nice.
those are loads of fun. It's always a bit challenging trying to get somebody to hold the camera steady, and I'm trying to obviously I'm very amateur in the way that it's set up. So I do the best. People starting to get involved and kind of telling me, Dad, don't forget to take a photograph of this drink. You mustn't forget it. So yeah,
Amazing.
it's a bit of a family affair at the moment.
Well, if you can have fun, right? Why not? So what I want to
Absolutely.
know from you is, I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but what's your favorite wine and wine region?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one. I suppose anybody would answer this in the same way. It's like choosing your favorite child, and it's almost impossible to do. But what I can talk about is things that are really impressing me at the moment. And one of which is not so much a fad. It must be about 2.5 years ago. I tasted Eric Umare's wines for the first time. Really fortunate to have met up with her partner and have a conversation, and tasted her 2015 Cabernet Sauvignon. It is still, without a doubt, one of my favorite SA wines that I've put to my lips. Really an impressive wine, and across their entire range, there are a few others that really stick their heads up. As a varietal point of view, I think Cinsault is really interesting at the moment. Lots of cool developments there, although probably a bit more faddish. I don't know if it's going to be as sustainable as other, but yeah, tricky to pick a region. It really depends on a combination of things. I really am all about relationships and the producer and the story and the way in which they treat wine, which is probably what has really taken me back with Erica's wine. But because it's on my doorstep, Stellenbosch really does have a very close place to my heart. It's the style of wine that I enjoy. It's really focused on big and bold profiles. That I and most of the wineries that I tend to stock up on happen to be in this area. And in the short term, I've found a lot of interest coming up in the Elgin region. It's obviously picking up, and always it seems to be on the up and up. Cool wine is just something that I just find the sophistication around it fantastic. And yeah, there are a couple of wineries up there that I'm starting to explore a bit more, get a bit more time with as well.
So the whole tourism area in that area is developing a lot. You have almost like an agri-tourism hub there that's starting to develop with your wine and also other stuff happening.
Yeah, I think the diversity that we offer in the Cape is just exceptional. Previously it may have been a really finite approach to a few smaller wine regions you're going to. There's absolutely no doubt, and I'm hearing more and more, and again, not really my view, but people who I interact with really often saying, when they come to the Cape, they don't even visit this side of the mountain. They go up over the hill into the Elgin region, Hemel and Arder, and go and explore there. That is just their thing. The wines that are there are exceptional for them. They have great relationships with wineries. And I'm finding there's diversity, and look at that in comparison to Swartland. Head out to Riva Castile and see what's being done out that side. We just have the most remarkable wineries and regions to explore, and I don't think anybody has enough time to get to them all. What a privilege to be able to explore them, even if it's just through a glass.
You know what? Lots of people don't understand what we have here in South Africa. I mean, to understand that, you really need to go explore some of the wine regions in the rest of the world, and then you realize that what we have here in terms of the total offering, in terms of how you are greeted on in the whole winelands, how you are, how it's presented, the tourism and everything that goes with it is really unique in the world.
Yeah, and that's such a big part of Uncork, and I said earlier that the purpose of this has never really been to to make money. This is not it's not a personal story to tell. Yeah, the core behind Uncork is really about telling a story of craftsmanship through the lens of producing, great wines and spirits in our country. It's all about talking about people who are doing exceptional things or making exceptional things. And my only hope is that it inspires somebody to get in a plane and fly here, or get in a car and get out and go and see a winery and taste something unique. Just try something different. Obviously, when it's again possible. I hope that in some way, if there's one or two people inspired to do that, it feels like it could be a win for Uncork, and hopefully for the wine industry.
Do you ever get the wanderlust to actually also maybe do the opposite? You yourself getting on a plane and flying to other wine regions of the world and writing about them a bit, or is this not really something you're interested in?
Absolutely, and I've been really fortunate to have sample wines sent from a few other countries. Some really interesting stuff, and some not always so great. Looking just for a favourable review, I'd say. I had the privilege last year to travel through to Bordeaux and spend a bit of time over a couple of days exploring. It also is never really enough to explore the entire region. And coupled with that, I actually spent a week or so in Scotland wandering through through some of the whiskey distilleries as well. So and there's no doubt those are absolutely wonderful trips. I think they tend to be once in a lifetime trips, particularly with family. When we go on holiday, we head east to Indonesia and find ourselves on a beach really quietly sipping back on something a little less sophisticated.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things is very obviously, Uncork is almost, becoming like a influencer in the wine industry. So I would think that sometimes it's to a winery's advantage if you can write something about them or review them or whatever. So if somebody's listening from a wine estate and they want to get your attention, how did they get you to actually drive a bit further than Stellenbosch maybe, or maybe go to a place you haven't been to and get your attention to come to, taste the wines and write something about it?
I think the first thing, I almost cringe at the
You don't have to bribe
word
you, right?
influencer. I know exactly why it exists and how it's worked. The starting point is, I hope that wineries see it as a channel. This is just another space that you can use to market your brand. And please, I have great friends who are involved in social media, and they work this as a career. I hope they see this as a valuable channel that doesn't have cost attached to it in real terms. Pick up the phone. My number's on most of the social media channels. There's an email address online, drinks@uncork.co.za, being an email address, or through any of DM me on Instagram is probably the easiest way to get it, really. Send a message, start a conversation. What I can tell you, what you're not going to get sent back to you is a rate card and a generic response that says how to get. This is supposed to be a way for hopefully allowing me to explore more of the winelands. And hopefully for yourself, a way of getting your products exposed to more people. There obviously is, one or two caveats to it. I don't charge anything for exposure on Uncork, and I never intend to do it. What it does mean is that I'm grateful to receive samples. The generosity of the industry is really vast. The samples always come at risk, and I said really clearly, I focus on the good. If I taste something and it's not to my liking, you'll find, very few ratings on the page are, in the low 80s and nothing below. And it's purpose driven, that I understand every product's got a profile and every profile has got a product. If it doesn't suit me, it doesn't do anything for a supplier to slate it. I'll talk generously about the things that I really enjoy. And I think people who follow Uncork, who align to my profile, hopefully will pick it up and enjoy it as well. But yeah, and I suppose the quick answer is pick up the phone, start a conversation. I love chatting to people who are, you're just interested in knowing what's going on. Never mind, the exposure you get, great. I don't do contracts. I don't do agreements. I do a phone call, a chat, a conversation, and that's, that is really what it is. It's who I am as a person, and it's how it's translated into Uncork as well.
I think, I've had quite a few people, quite a few big wine estates have conference facilities in that, and what they do, and I think this is where wineries can, and they would go to professional conference organizers and maybe invite them to come to and visit on a quiet weekend and experience what they can provide, right? And I think this is what I think, what I would think that the winery should do is actually invite somebody like you for a lunch or a pairing or something at their own cost, and let you enjoy it, and then write your review from that perspective as a invited customer type of thing.
Yeah. So in many of the cases, that's how it does translate with Uncork. So the ability to get out to a winery, I don't necessarily always plan very well in advance. Well, as you would have you would have seen, being at the mercy of all these children and a really busy work life. I'm sometimes and I'm able to kind of plan weeks or months in advance. But that being said, we've had some really good experiences. I remember a trip to Franschhoek where we were really blown away, and thankfully as a family, I think this journey is a personal one, but the impact is felt on a family who, I'm conscious of what it does to them if I'm running about tasting wonderful wines all over and they don't get to be a part of it. So I ask for anybody who's interested, be considerate of what the lifestyle it creates on the side, not just of myself, but anybody you're reaching out to. I suppose that is why some others may ask for financial support, because it kind of replicates, it's part and parcel of what they do for a living. The ask is reach out, let's chat, and I'm fairly open and honest about what I can and can't do. Where it's possible to involve family, and in some cases there's some wineries that it just is not, and that's also okay. And the last part, the other part, which is really really exciting, is that about 4 months ago we opened up a donation site on PayPal, which is really, it's not so much directed at producers, it's a combination of producers and followers, and it's called Buy and Cork a Drink. It's a really small entity. It's like a kind of a $5. Anybody who's interested, kind of small. And strange enough, that is just ticked over in a very small way. Some of the producers are grateful afterwards for exposure and drop $15 or a $10 in and say thanks very much. This is for you to go and buy something, which I appreciate. It actually, if nothing else, maintains a bit of interest, and it also gives me an excuse to stock up the cellar with more wine, I suppose.
So talking about that, I'm interested in how this influencer industry develops. When I started hearing about Instagram influencers, in the beginning, I was always thinking of girls in bikinis selling fashion accessories and makeup, right? But with this type of thing, you can't just rely on images and stuff like that. Surely you have to provide some value. So if you had to give somebody that wanted to become an influencer some advice, what would you say? What does it take to become a successful influencer in the wine industry?
Cool. So I think the starting thing is just pick anything that you're passionate about. So be it wine or natural wine or a specific region, or focus on South African wine, focus on a style of wine or what you're trying to track. The starting point is, if you're not passionate about wine, don't start here at all. And it seems maybe like a bit of a negative statement, but it's really difficult there are loads of people who come in and try and leave, and often the case is that you have to be so passionate about this that you almost can't stop. So there's maybe the first thing is, if you pick the thing you're passionate about. If that is wine, fantastic. What a pleasure to have a new influencer on board. The second thing is try to understand what your purpose is. So once you know that wine is definitely your passion, what is the purpose of what you're trying to do? Are you trying to bring new people, young people into drinking wine? Are you trying to demystify some of the complexities that are created around wine, get people to try new or different varietals or strange regions? I think understanding some of this may also just help to make sure that your market is really finite, but also that your content is then aligned to what they're doing as well. And to be honest, it's something that I've learned in the Uncork journey, is that for a long time I wasn't really too sure how some of these spirits and wines all really tied together. So I didn't start with a really big plan, which is probably my last piece of advice. Don't plan to start and then just you kind of plan yourself to death and actually never get your first piece of content going. Just start and let your community evolve where you're going to and how that direction changes. It felt that in the beginning it was kind of anything I could get my hands on to taste, I would taste and talk about, and then it evolved into let's start being more finite about things that display craftsmanship. So what is the criteria that I'd use for craftsmanship? Is that it's something that a producer stands wholeheartedly behind, saying I'm proud of producing this. And to be honest, some products are produced in the way to say I'm not, this is just a I'm producing this in order to scale that I can make something else. And others are, standing so proudly behind their product. And that's obviously what I've started chasing after for Uncork, is really just honing in on the craftsmanship elements of it, and highlighting some of the characters behind the product. So, yeah, and I think if you're passionate about the industry and you understand what kind of role you're trying to fulfill, and then you allow your audience to direct you where you're going, as opposed to standing back and trying to pre-plan everything up front. I've learned social media by learning by doing. My personal profile, I think, was created 6 weeks before Uncork. So I had no expertise in this space at all. I think I fell into an interesting space. I learned by doing. I made a heap of mistakes. I still make mistakes. I have friends all over the world who once in a while drop me a note and say, "Don't forget, you spelt this wrong. Go and change your copy." And I just leave it, because that is kind of authentically who I am. There are a few mistakes here, and I'm no
It's a
expert
perfect
in
way to
wine.
get some traffic, right? Make a spelling mistake.
Yeah, what a pleasure. All I need to do is get the numbers wrong, and then I'll be on YouTube and News24. It's strange enough. It's because I believe that I'm actually just a person who loves wine. I don't have any of the funny acronyms that follow my name. I'm really impressed by people who've dedicated their life to studying in wine. My experience is in the number of bottles I've tasted, the people I've met, and the feeling I have when I consume a product. I have some structure behind how I taste and rate product, but it's certainly, I wouldn't put myself up against a Greg Sherwood or these super effective reviewers and say I'm on their level. I certainly am not. But learning by doing. That's really
So I like
how
that
I've learned
idea
with
of,
Uncork.
just do it, because obviously with wine, there's no downside. If you just taste it, there's no downside to this. But the other thing is that, what makes me excited about what you're saying is the whole winelands and the story of wine and everything. It's a storytelling journey. And it seems to me that there are not enough people telling the story of the winelands. And a lot of those stories actually go by the wayside. And it's great that somebody is more interested in the people and the story and the experiences rather than all the technicalities, because that's covered so many times. But the actual human
Yeah.
aspect and the stories about the winelands is something that needs to be documented, actually.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that is really what comes through, is that there is, everybody says there always must be an agenda behind it. The reality is that the only agenda behind Uncork is to spark interest or curiosity for somebody in the world of the products that I enjoy, of the South African winelands, the tourism industry that surrounds it, spirits, the producers that we have around it. It is so appealing to me that I just want other people to know about it. I feel like I'm walking around tapping people's shoulders saying, "Don't forget to look at how amazing this stuff is. Taste our product, buy our product, put it in your cellar." And I bet all those people are saying, "I wish I'd listened to Uncork. I should have bought all this wine and put it in my cellar," because I'm sure they're going dry.
Exactly. Now you're coming to the the important thing. So, I mean, the coronavirus has forced basically everyone to rethink their business models, right? So, do you have any changes or new ideas in mind, or maybe even for wine producers? I mean, if not for Uncork itself, what are your thoughts about this, the industry, the marketing, your own business? You must have been thinking about all of this while sitting there sipping your. At least you have a stash that you can sip, right? So that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt this has shaken the industry completely. I'm of the opinion that in some of the decisions made are going to really have detrimental effects on the businesses, beyond just wineries, right through the value chain, in the hospitality industry and all. I think what it is going to do is it's going to start propping up a few opportunities for people to really start partnering where there's mutual benefit interests. Maybe just to put that in context, I think that you're going to find more and more wineries and possibly restaurants working together, closer together, where the benefit is not so much about how can you make my business grow, but how can we work together to make sure your winery is profitable, successful, and my restaurant is in the same space.
Mm.
And I really am hoping that is going to be something that is the fruit that comes out of all the pain that we're going through now. And the other part is I think that we might get a swing in some localization. So possibly local restaurants supporting local wineries, even more so than what they do at the moment. I think general feeling is that we want to make sure that people in our community are eating and drinking and their kids are going to school. And how better can we do that than actually supporting their own businesses? And maybe the last thing, I think, just innovation. It's for me amazing to watch all of these digital wine tastings, and it's not just here. I mean, winemakers doing tastings across the globe of their product as it's available. Some winemakers are only able to do that because their wines aren't obviously being able to be sold locally. Um, but people are starting to engage more with the stories through social media, and I'm really excited to see one of the changes that the not necessarily the investment in money, but the investment in time that the manufacturers are putting into social media is fantastic. Because this isn't a money area. Spending more money in social media is not the answer. Spending more time is, and I'm glad to see that's where it's going to. More winemakers have been on social media that I've seen in the last 3 weeks than I've probably seen since the start of Uncork. And it's probably a bit uncomfortable at first, but I think that after 3 weeks of doing it, they seem to be really comfortable in front of a camera and understanding which angles work well and which ones don't.
I think it's right, and I think also that I think the next step beyond that is that people will see that people want to consume online content. Like you say, it's not about spending money; it's about creating engaging content in stories. But also, I think another area that's not been tapped yet is actual education. I think people will be hungry to learn more, and it's easy to learn this type of stuff. With I think online courses and that type of stuff in the wine industry is also going to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general the ability to adopt technology is just it's leapfrogged. There's sometimes at the moment we're just not presented with any alternatives. So what you do with spare time if you're at home and you're not able to work, and you're passionate about this industry, you log onto the internet and you find something to read about, a new article. You go and listen to a winemaker talking, or you go and invest in actual qualifications. I think there is going to be a birth of a whole new style, and I think it's been there. I think the adoption rate is just going to be significantly greater in the months and the years to come, because I think that the idea of returning to what was normal is far-fetched. I think we're going to return to a very different normal than what we expect.
I agree with you. I think, like you say, it's just the process was there anyway. It's just been accelerated. But I think the other important thing that you mentioned is locality, right? I think because of the whole worldwide tourism industry is going to take a knock. So local tourism is going to be the first to bounce back. So people are going to be forced to provide also, I think, pricing for not for international tourists, but pricing for the local market in terms of your whole tourism experience is going to be important.
Absolutely, and it's where we talk about these genuine interest partnerships where all people involved have got to win. Some of these venues will not survive without local tourists supporting in the next 12 months, and hopefully we'll start gearing things in all ways. But for a restaurant to do that, for a hospitality establishment to do that, they also need the support of the really right at the supply chain. Who's providing them what product, and what role are they playing to make it more effective as well. So it is this genuine this partnership that needs to be created, and I'm hoping that this is one of the areas that I hope Uncork will benefit and certainly start focusing on, is the role that we can play in making sure people are aware of where there is where there are companies that are struggling, where there are companies that are succeeding, what kind of partnership opportunities exist, and what role people can play in joining together. It's just such an important part, and it's sad for me every time I open up and I see a story of a business closing. It really feels like it's a personal stab, and I'm hoping that in some way we can inspire one more person to walk into that store and talk about it, and kind of elevate the opportunity that people have to keep their businesses open.
I totally agree with you. So your vision for Uncork after all of this and going forward, where do you see yourself going and growing with this?
So, strange enough, and I think the Uncork journey is about diversification into different platforms. So I think the ask we are at the moment, we're moving to focus a bit more on a blog and get the website up and running. I've also started expanding out a little bit outside of Uncork. So I've started a new page called Crafted in Africa. Actually, funny enough, around about the start of lockdown, I've realized that some products don't naturally fit into the Uncork world, which really is tending towards focus on premium wine and spirits sporadically. Crafted in Africa is really honing in specifically on products that are produced locally only. It tends away from sophistication of wine and talks to probably a younger audience, and also refers to quite a big focus on the craft brewing industry, which I think is really in a really a tough state, I think, at the moment, not necessarily battling through some scale. I've also worked outside that into another site called Family Friendly, which is talking more to the environment where parents and children are both welcome. In fact, where kids are welcome, but parents can also come. So probably playing around the peripheral of Uncork without losing the really essence of Uncork, which I still need to continue to drive the message, is around this curiosity to just to explore craftsmanship and what we can deliver here.
Almost like a type of
I'm hoping
lifestyle
that
tourism, right?
yeah, so I've done a little bit, and I've tried to work with some local hotels, restaurants, and that is really something that whilst I'd like to do, it's only where it comes across as authentic. The limitation of always this is I don't get to define where Uncork goes. I talk about the ideas in my mind, but the reason why Craft in Africa has popped up as a sideline is that whilst I've tried to explore different passions through Uncork, the reality is the community who follow Uncork have clearly called that that's not, it doesn't fit into what they want to see, and therefore it helps to branch out elsewhere. And I'm excited about that because because there's no agenda personally, it allows me to really explore what people want and deliver that. But yeah, I am kind of hoping that in the really long term, this may be a space for me to fall back on in later on in life and expand more to how I can use this to focus on tourism. At the moment, like anybody who reaches out and asks for advice, which winery should I go and see, which region, I'm coming to South Africa, can you please give me an itinerary of what I need to do? I'm here for 3 weeks. It's a really daunting task, but it's lovely. And if just to be able to chat to them at this stage, it's purely to help somebody out. Who knows? Maybe in 15 years' time, I'm going to need to rely a bit more on Uncork for different kind of means. At this stage, it's a passion, it's a hobby. I hope to live it out as best as I can. And I hope just to bring more people on board who want to learn more about our product.
Awesome. So tell me your wine journey. Let me ask you this. What is the most important thing you learned from your wine journey so far?
So you spoke about stories earlier. I'd go one step further, that the most important aspect of any journey that I've been on, both wine and spirits, has been revolved purely around relationships. And I can't express this enough. It may be more what I've learned in the social media world than wine, but it translates really closely into what I've done with Uncork. It is all about relationships. I've seen really big businesses make offers of almost obscene amounts just for exposure. We'll send you this and we'll send you this is what we pay for it, and you either take it or leave it. And the response is always from us, I leave it. I have no interest whatsoever in doing this. What I've worked with from the start is a producer picks up the phone or drops me a DM and says, hey, have you heard of our product? Are you interested in trying it? We'd love you to come out to the estate if you can. If not, can you give us an address to send through a sample? And it doesn't end there. If I do taste, I actually want to hear from them. I want to hear what they thought about the wine, what they thought about the vintage. And when I say it all revolves around relationship, it's because it is impossible to unlock that story without a true relationship. The story that you get is a marketing story unless it's told by somebody who's intimately involved with it. And I think there's nothing better for me than hearing Bertu talk about Alto, about a specific vintage and how he remembers how hot it was for walking up and down through the vineyards. There's nothing. Yes, you can read about the rainfall in that year, and somebody will tell you statistically whether it was a hotter or a colder year than the other. But walking through the vineyard, talking to him about it or hearing him talk about it, it just fundamentally changes the experience. And that's when you actually live the story. The story is translated from something written down to something that you feel. And so, actually it's really advice, I'd say, to people who are toying around with exploring social media as a brand, is don't be fooled into the idea of thinking that you just pushing content out and hoping it's going to get consumed like a TV advert. You've got to consider this as a conversation that you are starting with somebody. The simplest one is, somebody walks up to you at the office and says, "Hey, you look really nice today," or "Those are really cool shoes," and then they just turn around and walk away and don't say anything back. For me, social media is sometimes interpreted, particularly in bigger brands, sadly, that's how it's lived out. They put out a wonderful advert of beautiful imagery and the most, a huge expense put into how to make a product presentable. And then I watch people commenting and saying, "Hey, this looks absolutely amazing. Where is the estate?" And months go by and nobody responds to it. Like, you've just had all the options. You spend all of this money and effort getting people there. They love what you're doing. And then when they talk to you, you turning your back and ignoring them. It feels to me like it's one of those old high school movies, and it's the quarterback turning around and walking away from somebody talking. It just feels that you've missed all, like, what social media, the heart of it really is.
But I think that's a misunderstanding, because most marketing people are still trained in traditional marketing methods of traditional radio, TV, and magazine advertising, or the traditional advertising type of thing, where you don't you actually put an ad out there and you hope people will call you. Whereas with social media, as you just said, it's all about engagement with your it's actually talking to people, and that's what people don't get. They focus on the media part instead of the social part.
Absolutely. And the more premium your product, the less important I'd say it is to focus on the metric. It's one of the areas that we often see, like, these statistics come through about the engagement percentage rates, and yes, those are really important. I suppose you have to consider them, and they are important to know, particularly if you're spending money in this space. What you're getting back for it. But if you're an ultra premium wine, and I say you're selling a bottle of wine for 600 rand a bottle, you don't need to have 3,000 people seeing your advert and 1,000 responding to it and commenting on your post. What you need is somebody who absolutely loves what you're doing, who's engaging with you consistently, and they're willing to put in the money to go and pick up your product and buy it. You need to focus on which one of those engagements out of all of the pools that come in, which are the ones that are really critically important. And the only way to do that is to respond to the conversation. And I agree with you about the traditional media components. I think so many people are trained on the old school way of marketing, and it's been really successful. And I've got to say, there's some wineries that have taken to the social media piece exceptionally well. In most cases, when the response comes back, it is generally from somebody who is intimately involved with social media from a different aspect and happens to be doing it for the winery as well. Or the alternative is that they're so intimately involved with the wine that they can't help themselves but spill the story in their conversation. It just comes, the passion of what they do just literally comes through the words as they write. I love the romantic part.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's the difference between having a sales orientation and building a long-term viable brand and loving your brand. And ultimately, if you want it to work, I will put money on it that where it works is where the owners of the farm or the owners of the estate are personally involved, because they love their brand.
Absolutely. Look, I think that there have been examples that I've seen of bigger corporate players, and what it always comes down to is an individual who takes personal ownership, whether they happen to be an owner or they happen to be an employee. When there is an individual who loves so much what they do that they can't help but behave like an owner, and that's really where you have the ultimate win. And to be honest, for a corporate, they get the best benefit of it. Individuals who behave that way, because they're behaving as the owner mentality is just so important.
But that works in all aspects of managing a business, not just in the marketing, right?
Absolutely.
So, Fred, the last thing that I'd like to hear from you is you need to give us your very own wine quote, or your favorite wine quote.
So my very own one, I'd struggle to create. I mean, there's so many amazing quotes out there. But there's one which comes to mind, which I'd have to steal, and I wish I knew who it was authored by. But it taps on two things which are really important to me. So it goes like this: right? Wine is a little like love. When the right one comes along, you'll definitely know it.
That is a very good. I actually love that one. That's I haven't heard it before. So that sounds like something that Mark Twain would say. But it's perfect,
it does
right?
sound like it's come straight out of the poet's mouth, right? And I'll tell you that this is no truer than the uncork journey for me. It's been this feeling of falling in love with wine and the industry, one glass at a time, one conversation with a producer at a time. It's this evolution and a continuously growing journey. I feel really privileged to have been a part of how this has developed. And yeah, I just hope that there are wineries out there that are benefiting from it. And those that would like to benefit or feel they could benefit, please reach out, have a chat. Let's see where it goes.
Now that on that page, how did I get hold of you? Where do people find you?
So, and the easiest, as I said, is probably is directly on Instagram at uncork_SA. The alternative is to drop me an email at drinks@uncork.co.za, or through any of the social media channels, WhatsApp or email are both available there as well. You'll be surprised that every comment that comes through, so you don't need to send a DM, it helps, but every comment that comes through on Uncork, I follow, read, try to get involved with. And yeah, if you struggle one way or the other, please try a different channel. And at worst come worst, go straight onto the website, www.uncork.co.za, and leave us a comment there, and it drops straight through to my mailbox as well.
Okay, perfect. We will leave all those links, obviously, in the show's description, everything. Fred, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks for spending the time. I know you are a busy family man, so I appreciate it, and thank you.
Awesome. Well, and thank you very much for what you do for the industry and the people that are involved with it as well. It's a pleasure to be invited, and certainly a privilege to be a part of your journey as well.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Think about the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to influencers and leaders in the wine industry, winemakers, restaurants, and other businesses. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you do not miss out. Now, to get on with the show. Good day, everyone. Welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, I'm talking to Pardon Taguzo from African Wines. Good day, Pardon.
Good day, Will. How are you?
I'm great. You are currently sitting in The Hague in the Netherlands, also under a lockdown, and must be quite exciting times over there, if you can put it that way.
Yeah, well, it's excitingly devastating times in terms of business-wise and also social life as well. Because we've also gone under social distancing, not really lockdown per se. The Netherlands has a different approach to this whole pandemic. So we mainly doing social distancing, but we've also closed most businesses that has quite a huge number of gatherings, etc., restaurants, hotels, events, and also have been cancelled, and business has been on standstill.
Oh, amazing! So, Pardon, let's start off with something more, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved with the wine industry.
How I became involved with the wine industry. It's quite a very interesting story. Well, I'm Zimbabwean originally, and just like any other young Zimbabwean, during the time when things were not going really well, the economy was actually taking a decided to visit the Cape where my sister was actually based. Yeah, and when I got to the Cape, it was actually in 2010, and I happened to just work at a hotel as a runner, and then after that, I got the excitement, but my visa to stay at that time was just a visitor's visa, which lasted me for only about a month. And after that, I had to go back. I had to go back home. So when I got back home, I started thinking about this short experience. Obviously, coming from a active in social scenes, I like to socialize with people, and that small duration of time when I was actually working at the Royal Hotel for those 3 weeks uh, gave me a different perception to the world, that I can still engage in people doing what I like to do and still earn money out of it. So then I came back to South Africa officially now, on a working visa. And fortunately enough, I got a job again at the same hotel, which is Royal Hotel in Ruby Castile. Um, and I was actually a runner. They got me in as a runner, but coming from an academic background, you always want more, and you always want to achieve more. So for me, being a runner was like, okay, yeah, okay, it's the beginning. So what's next? But I actually rose quickly through the system there. I was understanding the systems, how it works. I was also understanding as well how to talk with guests, and I was also quite friendly to people, and I was also earning quite a lot of tips for someone who was actually just arrived. So then I was offered a waiter's job. Then I started picking up tables. Um, After picking up tables, I also was switched from picking up tables, and I went behind the bar as well. I went behind the bar and got a little bit of an insight about the drinks, which when I got to the hotel, I didn't have any idea about alcoholic drinks, because I was coming from a Christian family, which means that drinking alcohol uh, was actually prohibited. You could not drink any alcohol beverages, or even smoke. Yeah, but then I had the experience of actually working in the bar, and also waitering tables as well, and I got the fascination of hearing people actually explain wine, because the guys that I've been working with, they have been at the hotel for minimum almost like 7 years, and they could understand wines, and they could talk about wines, and I just got the fascination. And with my academic background, I always want to know, and want to learn more. So I asked the guys, okay, so how do I get into knowing about all these flavors that you're talking about this wine? And just um, as colleagues, and with also the appreciation which I was getting back then from the guests, and also from the hotel owners as well. Um, my colleagues were not that willing to give away the information that where could I actually go and study, and do the studies, and actually become like them, or even more. Um, I actually looked it up, and enrolled myself at the Cape Town Academy, And I remember in that time I used to travel with the train from Rebecca Still to Stellenbosch. I'd drop off at club mats, and I would walk from club mats down to close to the mall zone there. That's where the classes were being done. And then after that, I would do the same routine again.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and then, when I did my introductory certificate, and then after that, I went also to do my certificate level 2 as well, and then I proceeded also. Then I met Kathy Maston. Kathy Maston, who is actually doing the WCT, running the WCT program in South Africa. And she introduced me to WCT. Then I was like, okay, wow, this is something interesting, because of course I was thinking of not just South Africa as the place for me to explore wine business. I was actually thinking globally. And when she pitched the idea to me that, okay, WCT is actually being recognized in over 60 countries in the world, then that actually struck me I actually grew an interest, and then I also enrolled with the WCT as well. Then I did my courses until level 3. And then whilst I was doing this, I was still actually working in Rebecca Still, where I just also moved from the hotel, and then I went to a very nice, cozy Italian restaurant in the valley, which is called Mama Cucina. Then I started off there, building my first wine list. I started off a wine program there. And I also started off some food and wine pairings as well for that restaurant. Thankfully to Kuni and Johan, they actually trusted me at that time to actually take care of that part. But yeah, and I was never meant to stay at one place, which also my bosses then, Kuni and Johan, were very they were very open about me that, if we know you're actually pursuing a career in wine, if you have anything opening, please do take it. We don't want to hold you. We don't want to hold you to the same position. If you want to grow, you have to grow. So yeah, fortunate enough, I also got an offer from our Aubergine restaurant, which is in Cape Town, where I then started working there as an assistant sommelier. And also I was now exposed to more wines. We used to run a wine list which had about 650 listings on the list, and we had a very huge seller of about 17,500 bottles, which is probably the best seller in the Western Cape. Then I also started. I was the runner-up of 2017 Best Young Sommelier in South Africa.
Awesome.
And then after that, we also went to participate in the World Blind Tasting Championship as a team of 4 Zimbabwean sommeliers.
Yes. I saw the Zim sommeliers. Tell us a bit more about them.
Yeah, well, so there is a competition which is being run by Jean-Vincent Ridon, which is the South African Wine Tasting Championship. So basically you go from regionals, and then you also go to the nationals as well. But the rules of the competition is any other team can only bring one foreign national into their team. So when I participated in 2017, I was actually in top 5 best testers in the Western Cape. And it also happens that we also have enough Zimbabweans as well that were in the top 15. So ideally, it was very wise just to represent one team rather than all of us just fighting for one spot into getting into Team South Africa. So we did that, and we actually went on the journey to France, and we competed, which was the first time, and we did not have enough preparation. We came 23 out of 24. Yeah, that's basically about Zim Swans, and it's actually a team which is made of 4 sommeliers.
An awesome
At
story.
that time, I was still working. Yeah, it is an awesome story of wine bringing people from different walks of life together.
Well, also from a country like Zimbabwe, which doesn't really have a wine history.
Yeah. We basically do not have a vast wine history, but we have up to now I think about 4 wineries in Zimbabwe that not really that successful in actually making wines and also exporting wines as well. So basically, I can say the wine culture is not there. Me for instance, I never grew up knowing that okay, we're gonna have dinner and then we're gonna have a bottle of wine at the table. Even though I was young at that time, and my folks also did not have that kind of culture as well, let alone beer. So it is quite a unique turn and shift.
Okay, so you then at the Aubergine restaurant. So how did you get involved with? How did you progress from there? And tell us the story about African wines and how that happened.
Yeah, well, African wines was actually an idea which was birthed. It was like 2.5 years ago. I was still working at Aubergine restaurant, and I met this couple that came into the restaurant with their two sons. It was actually most arguably the fastest table I had to serve. When you go out as a family, you really want to relax. You want to enjoy your meal, and you want to make the most time of it, especially when you're on holiday. So this couple came in, and they were actually sitting upstairs, and I was called by one waiter that they needed somebody's assistance. So I went there, and I greeted them, and they told me that what we would like to have a nice bottle of red wine from South Africa, and they were all having a Springbok. And at that time, I was actually thinking, okay, this is actually a traveling family. Obviously, they're not here to blow the budget. They want something which is quite comfortable with the budget, but also delivers as well with their meal. So then I recommended them Dunkin' Service red blend, which they liked very much. And after that, I was actually in conversation with the other son, and he was trying to offer me a job in front of my chef, and which was quite very interesting, because I was like, okay, come on, man, you cannot be saying such things in front of my boss. But then we kept contact, and this family is actually based here in the Netherlands, and they own a few restaurants, and they've been in the restaurant business for quite a while. And so we kept on talking and talking, and prior to that, when we were about to go for the band testing championship, which Janssen Robinson had helped us to actually do a crowdfunding. They were also the major donors of the crowdfunding for us to go to France. So yeah, and they also extended a trip visit as well from France to the Netherlands. That's when we sat down and we started talking what could be best, what could we do together, what projects should we do. And at that time, I always had thought about South African wines being making really a good mark into the world of wines, and I always had thought that they are not well represented because the entry level you get in Europe, either from a supermarket, it either gives you a good impression or it gives you a bad impression, and you don't have also other different wines which are coming from very small independent producers, which are also focusing on a bit more quality than quantity. It's either you were getting a very entry level wine, or you get a premium wine which is super expensive. So yeah, so then I pitched the idea that okay, what I would like to do is to actually move into distribution of wine. So yeah, just like that, and then we actually started off African wines, where I had to bring to build up a portfolio of wineries from the Cape, but literally from very small independent producers, and from producers that are also involved in social responsibility of their communities as well, and also giving back to the community, and also aware of the dangers of what the world and the plants are in as well. And yeah, and that just happened, and we commenced our business then 2 years ago.
Oh, that's amazing. Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support our country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation. www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show. So, are you guys only selling in the Netherlands?
No. It's thanks to the EU, you have quite a very good free movement. Currently, we are selling in Belgium. We're selling in Austria. We also selling in London as well. A little bit of that, and we're also selling now in South America as well, and we also selling in Germany as well.
Oh, that's amazing. So, Paul, I see that I've noticed that you import from all over South Africa. How do you choose your wine? I mean, building a portfolio is from all over South Africa is quite a job.
Yeah, it's quite a job, man. So, so basically, like I told you, the fundamental principles of building this portfolio, which my business partner also was very keen in that, Belinda and Damiano de Alba, was mainly given back to the community, and which is what is also lacking in the wine business here in Europe. So basically, we wanted to gather around wineries that do social responsibilities. Wines that are being made from the wineries that are disadvantaged because they do not probably have the budgets to bring out their wines out, and wineries that also have really good wine that also counts, but also really good story as well, because everyone now is moving away from the norm of talking about the political jargon of the acidity, the tannins. People want to hear what's going to make them feel good if they purchase this bottle of wine. What is it going to change in someone's life if they purchase that bottle of wine? So that was like the fundamental principles where we were building the portfolio from.
Well, that's amazing. I saw it on your website. There is a charity button, and that explains a bit more about it. So I assume that all your wineries that you are representing have some kind of a social responsibility type of angle.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I can run you through just one example.
That would be great. Yeah.
We have on the portfolio the winery which is called Black Elephant Vintners. It is based in Franschhoek, and this is actually the coming together of three partners, which is Raymond Love, Kevin Swartz, and also Jacques Wenzel. So basically, what this whole corporation is part of the BEE, which is the Black Empowerment Policy, which also the government is also supporting. And this winery, what they do, they have what is called the miracle dream, where they actually teach kids in the Franschhoek Valley how to preserve water. Due to the drought in Cape Town, which hit us a couple of years ago. So they actually teach them to recycle water. Say for instance, the water that you actually use for your dishes, you don't have to throw it away. You can actually use it for your garden. And it's quite fundamental, because that's how you can actually change things when you actually teach the kids, because they will feel actually their responsibility to actually take up such projects, and they do this project, which some of their wines which they have in their range, when they're purchased, they actually channel funds to sustaining that project. So that's quite a very interesting point, and interesting charity that we actually run with. They actually run themselves.
Oh, awesome! So, if any of our listeners out there is a wine producer and would be interested to work with you, what do they need to do? And do you have any other specific requirements?
Well, not really specific than other the fundamentals which I've just alluded to. Besides that as well, the wine has to be good, man. We here also to make sure that our customers here have the best wine at the best value, and it's not necessarily that they have to get a mortgage to actually buy a bottle of wine. They need to appreciate more South African wine, so we need to have all different categories and price points for them to start the culture of thinking of South Africa as a wine store or a supermarket in the EU.
Well, that's awesome. Pardon, now we're sitting with a situation with the coronavirus, and it's forcing everyone to rethink their business model.
It's we actually now getting. This is now the point. I think we have been because of this pandemic. Um, you know, this is when you actually need innovation. Um, selling more online is actually the only thing that will actually make businesses survive at this moment. And besides that, because from my point of view, we have like 99% of our business which is actually stuck up in restaurants. But now this is where we have to be innovative, start selling more online, start doing deliveries, and also start doing a lot more promotions online as well, to just keep the audience knowing about the brand, and also knowing where they can buy the wines and what best value they can actually get from such from such initiatives.
Okay, excellent. So, pardon, your wine journey has been quite an interesting story. What is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Yeah, well, the most important thing that I've learned from my journey is to is to have a thick skin and stay humble, have a thick skin, and yeah, just most of the times listen to yourself, and just throw yourself out there, uh, work hard, the bigger the reward. If you never try, you never know.
Awesome. So, my last question for you is, can you give us your very own wine quote or
I
your
think you
favorite
saw
one?
it in my the one I sent you. In wine, there is truth,
In wine,
because I believe,
yes,
yeah, in wine there's truth, because I believe wine is a reflection of a religion, it's a reflection of a culture, it's a reflection of who we are as human beings. It's art. So there is always the truth in wine.
awesome. But if people want to get hold of you guys or want to know where you are, how do they do that?
We are available on mostly social platform mediums. We are available on Instagram. It's African Wines NL, and our email address as well is info@africanwines.nl. Besides, they can get to me directly as well at pardon@africanwines.nl. We're also on LinkedIn as well as African Wines, and we're also on Facebook as African Wines as well.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll be putting your links all in the description anyway, so people can find it there. Well, and thank you very much for your time and good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, Will, for having me, and good luck for everything to you too, and stay safe.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, I'm talking to Nora Thiel. Nora is from Delheim in Stellenbosch, the wine estate. Welcome to About the Winelands, Nora.
Thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to actually speak to someone outside of the farm.
I can believe that. How did you guys cope with our lockdown situation?
Initially, it was awesome because we had no people walking here, and we live right slap bang in the middle of everything. So it's quite different to not have customers or visitors 7 days a week with us. We even had our bookies walking through our parking area, which they've never done. So it's quite special. But you know, when the cash flow dries up, then you also start worrying. So.
Yeah, I can believe that. But I must say, it must have been the first time that you actually, in your lifetime, that you had the farm to yourself, right?
Yes. So I was born here, and well, in the hospital in Stellenbosch. But I mean, I grew up on the farm, and we always, since I was born, had people around us. And because my father was instrumental in the starting of the Stellenbosch wine route in 1971, you know, we've always just had visitors visiting our homes, and you often have people walking straight through your house just taking pictures and saying, I don't have to worry because they're just looking, you know. It's like
Oh my word.
that's how we grew up. Yeah.
So talking about that, can you tell us a bit of the history of Delheim and how your family became involved in the wine industry?
So I must quickly just go back to, so this year we're celebrating 80 years of the farm. 1939, Hans and Del Hoheisen, who got this piece of land above Marathi. It used to be one property called Driesprong, Marathi and Delheim, which was separated in 1908. And the upper portion, which they bought in 1939, sort of as a retirement home, just before the Second World War, is where my father came and worked with them in 1951. His mother was the cousin of Del Hoheisen, and that's where after the Second World War had no father, and his mother needed him to work somewhere, and they offered that he could come to South Africa and work for them. Actually just built the first tanks in the cellar in 1944. They were built by Italian prisoners of war, and the first wines were actually produced in the early 50s, just before my father arrived. And then he basically walked into a business where his far off uncle and aunt needed someone to help them, and he then arrived here, and they sort of, he says on his first day when he came here and he asked them what he should do, Hans told him, on this farm everybody finds their own job. And 80 years later we are proud to be a family wine business.
It's amazing how he became found his own job and then became the owner of the place eventually, right?
Well, he worked with Hans and Del until 1971 as an employee, and then at that stage he said to them, look, he wants to be a partner in the business. So 1971 officially the company Delheim Wines was grounded, and then the next 15 years he actually worked himself into 50% shareholding. And it was only in 2003 when Hans passed away that we started buying out the other half of the portion, and only a year and a half ago that we finally have 100% ownership as the rest of the Sperling family to carry on the legacy that they started. I see it as one family because of the trend that he was family of Del Hoheisen. So we celebrate it as a continuous family business.
That's amazing. So for your 80-year celebration, did you guys do anything or plan anything special?
We've been hoping to have some wonderful events, which we cancelled.
Oh yeah, of course. I forgot about that.
Yes, we were going to do some very big retro tastings now for his birthday in July. And in the meantime, we've got Emilia Bears writing up some of our stories over the past 80 years. So we're using it through our newsletter, just bringing people up to speed from way back. And it's actually amazing how many wonderful stories we've got locked up in books and have forgotten to share with people. So it's been quite a journey to I've been looking through all our albums and history and write up a bit of how much they were part of the graveyard in South Africa, which he started in the early 70s, which was unheard of, you know. So a lot of things that happen behind the scenes and stuff we just don't use to sell the wine with. It's just part of our history. It's what built us and we grew up in.
That's amazing. I mean, that part of Stellenbosch had such a history with, you know, like you said, Marathi next to you, and the whole story of Lawrence Comfer and that old history as well. So that's all interesting. Social responsibility is really a core value at Jaline. Can you share some of your initiatives in this regard?
So we call ourselves a family wine business, more than just being the 6 family members that grew up and lived here. As a Sperling family, we have 15 other families who live on the property and still do. So we have, as I mentioned, a graveyard that was just part of what we thought was important for people to get buried where they were living. A creche for the kids to go to, an after school club for the kids who come back from school. So we try and just help on the education side. It's just something we do to empower people to take the next step forward. To me, it's more than just spending one day a year and going to paint a creche somewhere outside of our business. We continuously just try and work with the people that work with us to uplift them and look after their kids and their education. So yeah, that's, to me, is just what we do. I don't like to advertise it.
Well, yeah, like you say, it's a way of life, right?
Yeah, it's just how we grew up. And then people always say, yeah, but you must tell people that. And I'm like, yeah, well. We maybe just the Wine Industry Ethical Trade Association, the VITA audit that we do. They specifically then also audit us in terms of the accommodation that the people live in, the health and safety standards, the labor legislation, everything that goes around people. So we've opted to just have an external audit done as well, so that we can actually say we are not just a member of VITA, but we are an externally audited member.
I think that's very important these days. You know, the world is so concerned about where things are coming from, that it's imperative that you have to do it if you want to sell your products worldwide.
Yeah, it's, you know, we've often toyed with the idea of fair trade. Fair trade is a brand that the world understands in terms of what it means. But in our case, fair trade to me is a bit of window dressing. VITA to us is more substantial for our family business, and it works better in our business model. I think long term, it's just who we are. It's not trying to put a sticker on a label. So
I think it's so important, you know, that you actually are true to your core values rather than try to advertise it. It's so, because you're right. If you don't live it, it just becomes window dressing. And if you live something, you don't really feel like telling people about it because it's part of your identity. And
yeah,
it's
no,
amazing to hear that.
We once had a tour company who wanted to come and visit our creche with people, and I said to them, look, it's not visitable because it's not, I mean, education is something that is part of what we do. I'm not going to let tour groups go through our creche and have a look at what the kids are learning and how they're learning it, because to me that's not a tourist activity. It's just a basic activity. Yeah.
Totally agree with you. So other than social responsibility, you guys are also very much involved in conservation, and one of the things that you are involved with is you're a conservation champion for the World Wildlife Fund. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so in the year 2000, I don't know if you remember the big fires we had in the Cape. They were really bad. We basically burnt down the whole Simonsberg, burnt down in one night, and that fire jumped across from Kanonkop across the road onto our other property. It also burnt down the Klapmutskop, and in 2001 we had visitors walking up the Klapmutskop, and I got a phone call from this gentleman who said, "But do you realize that you've got some very unique fynbos up here?" And I was like, we didn't realize what we had there, because it was completely overgrown with pine trees and blue gum.
Wow.
And then we had the luck that Elsenburg College, which is next door to us there on the Klapmutskop, Francis Steyn, who's involved with land care, had managed to get some funding from overseas on a Working for Water project to clear the aliens on their property, which bordered us. And we managed to clear the complete copy of all blue gum and pine trees over the next 4 years. And that copy actually revealed a 300-year-old Breda River yellowwood forest, which is incredibly unique. And in 2003, we opened up the Klapmutskop Conservancy with 5 neighboring farms there to help keep the aliens out and protect that incredible find. And that Klapmutskop Conservancy, which we sort of started running out of a desk in my office, we then registered as a non-profit organization, then started doing hikes up the Koppie for people to enjoy. And that little conservancy then grew and expanded to become the Simonsberg Conservancy, which now includes 35 members around the whole Simonsberg as well as Klapmutskop. And through that, in 2004, the WWF got involved with the wine industry to help protect fynbos, because we are lying in the critical fynbos landscape. And they realized that if they don't help us to see what we need to protect, which is exactly what I didn't realize we had, they came and helped with conservation management plans and deciding what land you shouldn't be using, specifically mapping water areas that we weren't quite aware of that had special, even frogs and wildlife that we were just not, savvy to. So they started this project, the Biodiversity and Wine Initiative, which encouraged wine farmers to look at what they have in terms of conservation landscape. And if you had more than 10% of your land contributing to conservation or saying stewardship on it, you could become a champion in conservation. And it's in the last couple of years, they've chosen to carry on working only with the champions in the wine industry, which are, I think we're 42 members at the moment, that get support from WWF in terms of conservation management plans. They audit us in terms of how much we do with integrated production of wine audits, recycling of water from the cellar, that we do recycling on the farm, the footprint we leave when we do any spraying, least spraying possible. So it's a complete holistic approach to conservation. It's not just looking after the vineyards and the fynbos, but it's a business approach.
That's amazing. So, talking about conservation, the other thing in the Western Cape, a huge issue, water and the conservation of water. So, do you guys do anything specific in that regard?
Yeah, so we've changed the way we used to water in the vineyards to being more stress managed. You would use a pressure bomb test on your leaves of your vineyards to check how much water is actually in the leaf of the vine before you would add any water into the soil by giving it drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is also less using water that evaporates when you're using overhead sprayers. So you would minimize the amount of spraying of or watering the vineyards. We also do interesting fact is you use about 5 liters of water to make 1 liter of wine.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah. So in the cellar, when you're producing the wine, you have to do a lot of cleaning, and all the water that then runs out of the cellar, we're one of the first people to set up a water recycling plant. So we treat that water, we mix it with some of the bathroom waters that comes out of septic tanks to make it live again, and adjust the pH on that. We let it run through a wetland, and then we pump it back into a irrigation dam, and we irrigate all our gardens with that water. So it's quite an expensive exercise, and I remember my dad, when we were doing it, he said, "You must mal," because it was costing so much money. But to me, it was just not a negotiable. So we try and reuse the water that comes out of the cell instead of letting it run back just into the fields.
Well, that's amazing. Seems to be the conservation issue seems to be your baby. Where did this love for this come from?
Where does it come from? Hans Hoeisen was instrumental. His property that he owned next to the timber, or in the Timbavati up at the Kruger Park, he owned 14,000 hectares that he inherited from his father, and he donated all 14,000 hectares to the Kruger National Park.
Wow.
And WWF gets traversing rights, a donation every year from them using that property. And he left his own inheritance to South Africa in the Hans Hoeisen Charitable Trust, which is, I think, the biggest conservation charitable trust in South Africa. And that money has actually purchased the West Coast National Park. It's made it bigger. It's done a lot of investment all over South Africa from the Table Mountain Fund all over South Africa. It's getting funding from that trust. And I was privileged enough, and Victor was privileged enough to be on his farm in the Timbavati before he passed away. And that's, I think, where our love for nature came from.
Wow, what a story. So when the public come and visit the winelands, you know, they're not always aware of what they should be doing and they should not be doing. So in terms of conservation and sustainability, what tips can you give to the public when visiting the winelands?
I think bring your empty bottles back. That would be good. Yeah, we used to give a little bit of money back for people who brought their empties back, but today recycling has become more, you know, normal in South Africa. So it's not just, it wasn't just us doing recycling of bottles, but I think if people could just understand that you don't need packages for every single bottle of wine that you take with you. Try, and in Europe you sort of bring your own bag that you put your bottles into. One could reduce just even the packaging that you have from driving from here back to your house, and instead of just throwing another box away, encourage people to actually reuse, you know, like you go shopping in town with your bag. Why not go shopping on wine farms with a bottle bag? In Europe, they actually make wonderful bags, or even in Canada, I've seen these wonderful bags where you could put 9 bottles of wine in. You just carry them home.
Maybe there's
bring your empties back next time.
There might be a business for somebody there making reusable wine
carriers. Carry bags for bottles, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
And
conservation.
drink the fresh farm water that we have on our farms instead of insisting on bottled sparkling water. I think that would be a great move.
I second that one. I think
Yeah.
sometimes the bottled water are worse for you anyway. So let's
Yeah,
get into that
yeah.
discussion.
Exactly.
So issues like conservation and sustainability and social responsibility. I mean, you have a lot of overseas visitors and tourists coming. Are these important issues to them and also to your international wine buyers?
I think it's we've forgotten to tell all the stories that we're busy with. We've started putting up more visuals as people arrive on the property. So even just a sign that we put up last year that the Cape Leopard Trust gave us, because we have leopard roaming around on the farm. Just informing people more of what we're busy with, I think would do us a lot of good. People are looking out for it. I think it's non-negotiable these days that you're supposed to be looking after your people and the environment. So to me, it's like, you know, it's not something that I used to sell extra, but it would be nice to sell more or to tell more stories so that people can feel more part of the brand.
Yeah, I think
and I think the big thing that we're talking with the WWF about is that the little logo that they have on the championship status of conservation champions, it's not recognizable by consumers, so they don't understand what it means. And we need to work harder on making that link between conservation and the wine brands that are actually looking after the environment.
What about your buyers internationally? Do they actually compare brands and look at these things, or do they just buy on price?
I wish there was a bigger drive.
Well, let's talk about the basics. Can you give us your very own wine quote or your favorite wine quote?
Yeah, it's that part of just enjoy the wine, don't overthink it. We've complicated the wine industry so much, people rather drink beer. If we could just make more people enjoy a glass of wine easier than being worried whether they know too much or too little about the wine. I think it's make it simple that people can just pick up. In a Gewürztrum, you know, I was talking to someone about today. I said, people are just scared of the name, never mind the wine, but it's such a beautiful wine. And if more people could just put a bottle of Gewürz on the table and say, enjoy this with a curry, and enjoy the simple things in life, because it is just amazing what we can make out of grapes. And we just complicated it because people think they don't know enough about it, so they'd rather not try it. Simplify it and enjoy wine more.
It's very interesting that you just said, because it just made me think, you know, you were just mentioning this, the social media side of it and stuff like that. That would, for instance, be an interesting story, because I think a lot of times people want to hear from the wine farm or the winemaker or the winery. What, you know, if it comes from you saying, have this with your curry, then people will actually have it. If they see that story coming from the source. So that's quite interesting. So Nora, just quickly, if visitors coming to Delheim, just give us a quick rundown what they can expect on the estate.
At the moment, they can come from Monday to Thursday between 9 and 5 and buy wine. That's it. And see the beautiful autumn colors on the mountain.
Okay,
we're strategizing tomorrow about when to reopen restaurant and so on. It's midwinter, and we've decided to not do, we've had to cancel our mushroom experience. We even put a mushroom box together. People can order some dried porcinis with risotto with a wine selection, have it ordered home. And we'll have to reconsider how and when we open, because it's winter and our whole restaurant team is actually working in the vineyards and helping packing wine. We've tried to keep them busy. We'll have to open with a bang later in the year, rather than sort of sit and wait for people to feel comfortable to do outings or to restaurants again. But we'll be here, and look after the farm for everybody until it's time to be ready.
If people want to get hold of you or they want to order wine, how do they do that?
Online, yeah. Any online platform that has Dalam on it, please support us. And then our own online platform, we've also just made it much easier. You can even use SnapScan on there, so people can order their wine home. We are available in a lot of retailers in South Africa. Otherwise, take your car and drive up here in the middle of the week. It's incredibly beautiful at the moment, the winelands.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Awesome. Nora, thank you. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and it was so interesting.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's some people always say, oh yeah, we've been to Dalam, but like 30 years ago, you know, people forget that we're still here. But some people who come back, they said it's so nice to still come back and see some familiar things which their memory lane brings back to them. I think there's very few wineries where people can say they were here with their parents, and some of the little corners are still the same, and they have memory lane moments which are really nice to see. So look forward to seeing everyone again.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure everyone will enjoy this. And yeah,
and thanks for having me. Yeah.
No, thank you very much.
Wonderful. And we hope to see you out here as well soon.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely will be. Actually, it was one of my favorite places to come as a student in the 80s. So I hear what you're saying when,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
about nostalgia at Delheim.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every week for our latest episode. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Gerard van der Walt. Gerard is the CEO of Paardeberg Winery. Welcome to About the Winelands, Gerard.
Thank you, Will. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning.
No, it's our pleasure to have you, and thank you for taking the time. I know you guys are busy.
Yeah, of course, the world is upside down, and we have to deal with what we've been given. So we are making all sorts of plans to see this through and make sure that we're continuing in business, but it certainly is a busy time.
So Gerard, what would be interesting is if you could tell our listeners how you got involved in, you know, a bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry.
Sure. Sure. It started many, many years ago. So after I completed my articles, I decided to leave auditing, and I started as a financial accountant in the old Stellenbosch Farmers Winery. That was 1989. So I guess you can call me a veteran of 31 years in the wine business. And yeah, through starting at SFW, I worked in different departments, finance, and then later on into corporate strategy. Eventually, it took me to the US, where I launched Savannah Cider in the US for SFW. But at the same time, that's when SFW and Distillers Corporation formed Distel. So I really went over under the Distel banner. And then shortly after that, they asked me to run the European operations for Distel, sales marketing operation from London. And that's where I spent a number of years before I returned back to Cape Town, back into a strategy role at the head office of Distel in Stellenbosch. Yeah, so I left Distel, I think it was just 2 or 3 years after returning back from overseas. And for the last 10 years, I've been at Paardenberg, where I'm the CEO and looking after the business development for the company. So yeah, that's from a business point of view. But just from a personal point of view, I can tell you that I've got 5 kids, all from the same wife, and the youngest is 12.
Wow.
So yeah, I need to work for at least 10 more years, but I really don't mind, because I think the wine industry is great fun, and I love going to work every day.
Where in the US were you stationed?
I lived in Boston, and yeah, so we took the family over to Boston. We were there for quite a short period of time, because the merger of SFW and Distillers dictated the process, and yeah, I had to after about 8 months, I think 9 months, I had to move to London. So it was a short stay in the US, but utterly enjoyable.
Okay, interesting. So Paardenberg Wines, can you share a bit of the history of the cellar and the winery?
Sure. Well, we started in 1941, so next year Paardenberg will be what you can call an octogenarian in years, but we are going to be as fit and as nimble and with it as a 21-year-old, because we are still very innovative and progressive in our thinking and the way that we drive the business. But it started in 1941 with a person by the name of Jan Rousseau, who got together with a couple of farmers in the area near the Paardenberg or Paardenberg, and he decided to form a cooperative and appoint their own winemaker, to basically achieve better pricing for themselves on a collective basis. So we adopted the name Paardenberg, as we are at the foothills of the Paardenberg mountain. There's a bit of an anomaly. If you just look at our logo, we have a zebra. So just to clear that up, the Dutch, when they looked at these quaggas walking on the Paardenberg mountain, they said that's one wilde paard, one wild horse. Yeah, so we decided to keep the zebra, and yeah, so that's really something that distinguishes us, make us very recognizable. You'll see that through all our products and everywhere in our media. So since 1941, Paardenberg has been quite innovative. We, I think, was one of the first people to really appoint a viticulturist in those days. But I think we really were put on the map by somebody by the name of Joseph Huskinson, who was a winemaker at Paardenberg for 38 years. And he was trained under Günter Brösel at Nederburg. So he brought a whole lot of knowledge to Paardenberg and really put us on the map in terms of winemaking. And then from there on, yeah, it just progressed. Nowadays, we are what we call a group of companies, where we have 2 facilities that process grapes. One at Paardenberg in the Paarl area, and then the other one at Bottleray in Stellenbosch. We're also renting another facility from Boland in Paarl. So we have got quite a diverse and big business. We have 32 shareholders, so all producers from the area, and they supply us with grapes on a contractual basis. But Paardenberg is very brand focused. So what we've done is we've invested a tremendous amount in barrel space and small batch processing. So a lot of our brands are managed like an estate, if I can call it that way, from the vineyard, very intense vineyard management, right through to the cellar. So we have brands, we sell also wines to other brand owners. And then we've got some distribution company in South Africa. So it's quite a diverse organization at this point in time.
It sounds fascinating. Have you guys followed the trend in the 90s by changing from a members cooperative to a private company then as well?
Yeah, I think we were probably a bit later than the rest. It was 2012 when we made the conversion.
Mm-hmm.
but that was just really a statutory conversion. I think in essence, or we were already operating as a market-driven organization before that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that was the actual date that we made the conversion.
So would you accept grapes also that are not from your shareholders or buy-in, or does everything come from your, your historically of the farms that started Paardeberg?
Yeah, I think we've outgrown our normal supply base. So we do contract grapes in as well. But when it comes to our brands in particular, we're obviously very fussy, and we really just make sure that those are from the area. And we'll talk maybe hopefully a little bit later about our winemaking philosophy and how we approach things.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think most of it is from the area.
So talking about that, I mean, you guys have expanded into more than just a winery. People can actually come there and experience things when they come to Paardeberg. So if a guest come to you, what can they expect? Or, when you are fully open for guests, what experiences do you provide?
Yeah. Well, when we are fully open, which is hopefully not too long from now, with the lockdown hopefully coming to an end soon, you can come to do some wine tasting. We've got a fantastic modern facility that we revamped, I think, about 3-4 years ago. Where you can do wine pairings. We've got some interesting stuff there. We've done some chocolate wine pairings. We've done some different Shannon expressions, a whole variety of kind of trying to be unique to our environment and what we produce, kind of tastings. We have a restaurant. It's called Eat at Paardeberg. It's run by Rob Hahn. Rob is actually a well-known guy in the area, but some interesting information about Rob is that he was actually one of the chefs that were selected at President Mandela's inauguration ceremony at the Union buildings. And wow. A few of them were handpicked, and they did a private function for him. Yeah, so Rob's got some history there. So yeah, if you want to meet the guy who cooked for Mr. Mandela, then you're welcome to come meet him at Paardeberg. There's a photo of him as well, of the event. And yeah, so we've got a restaurant. It's really a family-orientated restaurant, so very easy kind of environment. Lots of open space outside where the children can run around a little bit and the parents can relax. We've got a jungle gym, and sometimes we also put up a jumping castle for the kids. So yeah, it's quite safe, kid-friendly, and parents can relax. So yeah, good food, great wine, and then yeah, there's also some venues as well where we can do functions, and we elaborate a little bit on that if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, but I see you do weddings and other events, so I'd love to hear what you actually offer. It's always nice for people when they're looking for event venues to know what is in the area.
We've got a function hall, which can, so it's got a beautiful chandelier, a roof, chandeliers all over. The capacity is 150 for a wedding. So yeah, it's got some character as well. Beautiful wooden doors that was part of the cellar from the word go. So some old wood there, and it's got a lovely view. So balcony as well, where you can look out over the vineyards. That's weddings, and then of course seminars. So for seminars, we can probably put in a few more people in terms of the seating, and it's quite affordable as well. So if people are interested, they're more than welcome to contact us and explore the packages that we've got for them. We have an area called the Kwacha. The Kwacha is a horseshoe-shaped tasting room where we can do bespoke tastings with the winemaker. You just book beforehand, and we can do a very specific tasting for you, and a far more in-depth for the connoisseur who wants to maybe just delve in a little bit deeper into the wines and the way that we make them. And then we also do little workshop or provide workshop venues for companies that want to maybe do team building and just break away with a small group to strategize or whatever the reason they want to just hire an outside venue. And we can couple with that, of course, some fun activities. So if you want to do the team build and a wine pairing, we will do that. And we'll do that in our dryland room. It's a modern boardroom facility. Yeah, and then, of course, what we're trying to do from time to time is also have some fun events. So about, I think it was 19, sure, I better think now. It was about 10 years ago, yeah, 9 years ago, that we started with what we call the Family Festival. We actually called it the October Festival because it was held in October, but there was no beer. But yeah, so the Family Festival is where we draw in a lot of people, and we basically just have music and eats and just a fun family day where people can relax and become very popular. So we've continued with that every year. And the Family Festival, hopefully we can hold one again this year. I'm just a bit concerned about when we will unlock for that kind of thing. But yeah, certainly. So we have that. We've expanded that. We've done the Pinotage and Biltong Festivals at Paardeberg. We started last year with the Chenin Blanc Festival. And maybe just on that point, you know, Paardeberg is very well known for Chenin Blanc. It's just such a beautiful grape that is suited to our area. And that's why, you know, we call the function hall even the Chenin Blanc Hall. And we also have this Chenin Blanc Festival that we now plan to run annually.
Are these festivals organized by yourselves as principal? In other words, these are festivals that you actually originate and organize yourselves?
Yeah, the Family Festival is a self-organized festival. The Pinotage and Biltong was a festival run by an outside party. But the Chenin Blanc one, we started with using a third party just to facilitate, but we do plan to continue with that ourselves going forward. And just to make it a bit more, how can I put it, accessible for the wider wine public, we've decided to draw in other wine farms as well. So for the Chenin Blanc Festival, we'll certainly invite other Chenin producers to come and spend a day with us and also have their table where they will show their Chenin. You know, for us, it's important to show the capability and diversity of Chenin that our country can offer. You know, we've registered the trademark Home of Chenin Blanc. So we do see ourselves as the home.
Very clever.
But we don't mind sharing our home with other Chenin producers because we think that, you know, if everybody starts talking about Chenin Blanc, it's got lots of potential to become one of South Africa's signature wine varieties, next to Pinotage, of course. Yeah, so we do events, and then we've got plenty of plans just to extend the experience for visitors to our facility. It's very safe. It's completely fenced off, the whole property. Good access control, and of course nowadays very safe. Also with regards to virus, if you're worried about viruses, you know, goals and make sure that people are as safe as possible.
Yeah, which is obviously important in today's environment. You mentioned the Chenin Blanc, which brings us to the wines, and you know, this is obviously the most important thing. So tell us a bit about the wines that you are producing and also your winemaking philosophy.
Sure. So I think maybe the one thing that we need to understand about our area and our wines that you will find in our brands is that it is pretty much influenced by dry land vineyards, so unirrigated vineyards, which we have a lot of. About 60% of our vineyards are not irrigated. And what we've done is we've really owned that platform as well. So if you look at our ranges, I can quickly speak to that. You know, we have what we call the classic range. And then we have above that, the vineyard collection range. And then above that, the dry land collection. each one of those ranges will have a component of dryland vineyard wine in it. And we strongly believe that these unirrigated vineyards really produce the best fruit. I remember one day also watching a TV program on the BBC where Dan Jager, who was the buyer for one of the big supermarkets, remarked, we all know that the best wines are made from dryland vineyards. And I certainly concur with that. Because it's small berries and the fruit is concentrated. So you have a deep color, you've got lovely fruit flavors, because the flesh to skin ratio, I think is what makes the difference there. Maybe unlike highly irrigated vineyards, where you might find that the wines are not as deep in color and maybe a little bit less thinner on the palate. So dryland is important for us, and we really believe that is what distinguishes our wines. We have a viticulturist that, of course, manages the vineyards. We classify all these vineyards into their quality, their ability based on terroir, history. As you know, we've got long history, so we keep good records, and therefore, over time, we've worked out exactly which wines, which vineyards, which slopes are producing the best wines, and we've obviously matched those and mapped it to our brands across the quality spectrum. Lots of hard work in the vineyards. We do very sustainable kind of farming. It's dryland vineyards, a lot of it, and we do cover crops to protect the soils. We also use the ladybirds and some other what do you call it, gogakis, that actually eat the vitrus, what do you call it, lois. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with English here. But yeah, so we try and do things right in the vineyards, but at the end of the day, it shows in your wines. And then from a wine team point of view, I mean, we've got a whole group of winemakers headed up by Albertus Lowe, who's also been in the industry for many, many years. He's got red winemaker, white winemaker, and a small cellar winemaker. And they all work together. I think one can say he's made in the vineyards. And then in the cellar, of course, you have an opportunity to enhance it or destroy it. And I have to say that our team has done extremely well over years. So if you go look at our website and the accolades that we've received for our wines, it really is a long, long list. I mean, I remember just shortly after we launched the dryland collection, completely made from unirrigated vineyards. We won the best producer of the year at the Michelangelo, and it was mostly those wines that really came through. And it was just, I think, 2013 or 2014, somewhere there. Yeah, so I really, if you want to ask me, what really distinguishes us is the fact that we have got dryland components to our wines. And also maybe another interesting thing is that we do try and bring in very unique varietals and to try and be a little bit different. So we had a straight Cinsault. We believe it's one of the only dryland bush vine Cinsauts. We have a Cinsault Rosé. We've got a Malbec in our range. We've got Grenache Blanc. These are all wines that we put in our let's call it the innovative space, and the vineyard collection is the range that houses these wines. But then, of course, we have got also interesting stuff in our dryland and classic ranges. We do MCC sparkling, Chenin-based sparkling, and also Pinot Noir Chardonnay-based sparkling. Yeah, so innovation is very important. We recently also launched wine in a can at the very basic level. So we've got a range called the Soft Smooth Red range. Yeah, so maybe that's me stop there for a minute.
Well, I'd like to ask you about the can wine because that seems to be something that's going to become a trend. Do you think it'll become a trend? Will it just be a fad? I see the Michelangelo awards are going to now actually reward, or they're going to have this, the same thing for canned wines now that they have for normal wines in terms of their ratings and stuff.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if I have to say personally, I mean, you know, I really do like to drink wine out of a glass. But I do think we need to recognize that there's a young new generation coming up that you know, they have different conventions and different ways of thinking about things. And yeah, so we've really launched our wine in a can for that reason. So we are targeting young people across the spectrum, and we really want to, particularly in South Africa, draw also from the underdeveloped wine market. So you know, we really need more people to adopt wine and bring them into the wine category. So you know, it's early days for us, but if I just look at the reports around the world, and South Africa does seem to follow trends often. The US, for instance, has just run out of cans, and they said it's not because, you know, there was a problem with can production. The problem was that they didn't anticipate the demand. So the consumer demand was of such a nature that they couldn't supply because of a can shortage. And we find everywhere around the world, it's about sustainability as well. You know, people want to move to carbon-friendly packaging. I think convenience is a big factor. You know, weight if you're traveling on an airline, and I think there's just so many applications for wine in a can. But the important thing, I think, to remember about wine in a can is, you know, you mustn't see it as a cheap wine alternative. We really need to put the very best wines we can also in the can, because yeah, it's recruiting new consumers into the category, and you can't do that with wines that don't stand up to the challenge.
Well, that's very interesting. You're talking about the younger market, and I think the wine drinkers, the young market for wine drinkers are now the millennials really. And, you know, they're also interested in things like you said, sustainability, but also things about additives in the wines, like, you know, vegan, the whole idea of vegan wines and stuff like that. Is this something that you guys are addressing? How do you find, you know, that issue?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for us to go completely vegan friendly does mean that we have to make some adjustments in the cellar. But what we can at this point already tell you is that all our red wines are vegan friendly. And we've actually advertised that on some of our products, so that the classic range. We've incorporated the vegan sticker on the back of the label. We have done some trials on the white wines to try and move that over to vegan friendly. We, in all probability, will do so from 2021. For us, it was very important to keep quality. So changing your process to stay completely vegan friendly mustn't mean that you compromise on quality. And that's why we haven't moved already this year, but next year the white wine should, particularly for those branded ranges, be vegan friendly as well. It is quite big. If you look at the overseas market, again, the trends there, the Scandinavian markets are very, very focused on vegan friendly, organic, and that kind of thing. So yeah, we are very much trying to also speak to the vegan and sustainability audience.
Well, that's awesome. So we're talking about the Scandinavian markets and stuff like that. Where are your wines sold? And what is your, I mean, are you primarily exported? You sell in the local market? How does that mix work?
Yeah, so we are very much an export-led organization. So most of our wines, our turnover is derived from the overseas market, which of course at the moment is standing us in good stead. The rand that is quite weak. So export profitability is quite good. And the fact that we can continue to do business in the international market right now, although we can't do it in the South African market. But we already embarked, I think I mentioned earlier on, that we're a market-driven organization. So we started exploring international markets, sure, a long time ago already, 2009, or even before that, we were in the international market, but we really stepped it up. We've invested heavily in people. So we've beefed up our human capital infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, we sell all over the world. So from China, Malaysia, Hong Kong, we sell to Russia, in Africa, Kenya, Belgium, Holland, Germany, Sweden, Finland, Norway, UK. We do Canada, US. All different kind of markets. We've invested a lot of effort in exploring the African market, so there's a lot of time and money going into that, and also the Far East, so China, and then the US. Europe, we do good business in, and we continue to support those markets. But it is a little bit more mature, and we think that there's a lot of value to be derived from the US in particular, albeit that it's a tough market. It's really not an easy market. Many people have tried over many years, and it's not a walk in the park. The Americans are complicated. They've got a 3-tier system, and you've got to get through all that complexity and find the right distributor.
Interesting. It's also interesting that I've spoken to a few places who've mentioned the African market, and it seems that there's quite a bit of growth and also maybe a premium in price in exporting to Africa at the moment. Yeah, I think, at the moment, right now, I think worldwide pricing is a little bit under pressure, unfortunately. Yeah, of course. We've seen, particularly in France and Spain, the guys have actually resorted to approaching their government to distill wines just to get rid of surplus. But I think, generally speaking, your on-trade is where you can achieve the better pricing. And in Africa, there's a lot of tourism, a lot of on-trade facilities where you can achieve good pricing. But there's also a good market at the entry level. So at the moment, I think that side of the business, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you are, is growing, at the expense of the more pricier wines. But yeah, there's great opportunity in Africa. If we look at the industry players in South Africa, they've really invested in Africa over a long time as well, recognizing that the predictions of Africa being a potential economic powerhouse. So we do hope that that's true. As I said, we're putting a lot of time and effort into it, and we're already seeing the benefits coming through. Interesting. I see on your website you also have a wine club. Can you explain a bit more about that? Yes, indeed. The good news is that there are no joining fees. So all you have to do to get yourself active as a member is to buy 12 bottles or more of our wines, and you can then activate your membership automatically. And then thereafter, we only require you to buy 6 cases per annum to keep your membership active. If you do, you can get 10% off your wine purchases at the classic range. And for higher up, you can get 15% off the vineyard and the dryland and our iconic wine ranges. In addition, you can get a free tasting for you and 3 friends every year. Receive 10% discount on venue hires for weddings, parties. And then you get invitations to exclusive wine club events where we will do wine tastings with a winemaker, educational kind of tastings. And then, of course, free delivery to all the main centers in South Africa if you buy more than 1,000 Rand worth of wine. That's awesome. So if you're planning a wedding this year, it's a good thing to, before you buy the ring, to actually join the wine club first, because you're going to save all over.
Absolutely. So are you planning a wedding, Will?
I don't think so. Not yet. Not again.
Let me know. Let me know.
I'll let you know if I hear of somebody. Gerard, the big thing obviously at the moment is the coronavirus, and you know, it's forced all of us to rethink our business models. So do you have any changes or new ideas in mind?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, as we are right now engaged in conversation across the electronic platform, you know, that's clearly become a new way of working. People are, you know, connecting in different ways. But you're right. I mean, you know, the whole Corona thing has slowed down the world, and people are reflecting personally and also from a business point of view. You know, am I busy with the right model? You know, where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? And yeah, it's been no different for us. You know, I think the main strategy that we have, I mentioned already, is that we are an export-led organization. And, you know, we've invested in that channel exponentially. And we believe that this virus has really proved for us, you know, that is where we should continue to focus. It is a big world, and it's a diverse market. So, you know, the opportunities are endless. And if you just look at profitability, it certainly is by far the best profitable channel. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to participate in South Africa. I mean, just to point out, and maybe I didn't emphasize that earlier, we do have a distribution company in South Africa called PV Liquor Merchants that does the distribution for our own brands, but also for other brands. So we do distribution for brands like Neertlingshof and Slanghoek and others. So, yeah, I think we are committed to the local market, but the fact that we are export-led in our strategy is a positive. And for us, this time in history has really proved it, that it's not a bad place to be. But then, of course, you know, we moved to a virtual world, and we've realized that there's so much you can do electronically. I mean, we launched this wine in a can that I spoke about earlier during lockdown, and we had a virtual launch. You know, so we had a whole audience of media people zooming in with Trevor King, the bartender, who was actually bartender of the year in 2019, making wine cocktails for us. You know, and we did it all online. And the next day there was a whole lot of media exposure based on this. So we're participating in international wine shows in the next couple of weeks, business-to-business wine shows, where you will be, your wines will go over to the potential. You know, you can do wine tastings and discuss your wines across the globe, but doing it via Zoom or some other platform. So I think, yeah, definitely, you know, you can really rethink your business in terms of your cost structures, travel costs, that kind of thing. And I think the other big learning for us was that, you know, social platforms are really the communication medium going forward. We all know that. And we've already invested in that for quite a number of years, and we've escalated that investment. And it's paying off. So, you know, another learning is e-commerce and e-platforms for marketing and communicating with your consumers on e-platforms. That's the future. So get smart at that. Get fit in terms of your electronic communication and engagement with your consumers. That's the way that they work. I know, you know, we all wish that at some point in time we can just chuck the phone in the bin because we spend so much time with it. But you know, it is unfortunately the way that people nowadays are going to communicate. Well, I say unfortunately, but you know, that's the reality. And we better tie into it.
I think you're right. I think also there's so much opportunity. You know, people I think always think back to the good old days before these things were there. But actually, if we had these problems we have now, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So I think technology is more of a blessing than a curse than we realize. And it's like been like that for every new generation. There's been
Yeah,
technology that the older generation didn't like, but the new generation found as a blessing, right? I honestly would rather prefer to drive around than to hop around on a horse or any of the older things. But what I'm wondering is the whole issue of direct to consumer, right? Understand if we're export driven, it's more business to business sale. What about inside South Africa, direct to consumer business, and also even internationally? Because the one thing about technology and the internet, it actually cuts out the
yeah,
middleman. I mean, that's been proven by Amazon and those things. How do you see that play out in wine distribution over time?
absolutely. You know, I think consumers want to have information about their product, and they want to be able to go back to the source immediately. Um, so I mean, for instance, we've explored also opportunities like the artificial, what do you call it? Yeah. Oh, I forget the terminology now.
Virtual
But
reality.
virtual reality. Thank you very much. So, you know, if you just engage those things, I mean, we've got the technology devices that can handle all these things nowadays. So your communication to your consumers is direct, it's quick, it's interactive, and it can be real time, and it can update at real time. So I think you're 100% correct. I'm unfortunately I'm of the old school, so I can't even think of all the potential applications of this. But it's the one thing that I've realized more and more is that you need to get smart people engaged in your business that can drive these platforms and speak directly to consumers. Now, even if it goes through the channel in which they buy the wine is not direct. When they engage with your product, they want direct contact. It's that personal thing that makes a difference. So yeah, people also the platforms that people use to communicate are powerful things as well. So when you give somebody a great experience, it is known very quickly by many people. If you give them a bad experience, it's the same. So you really need to be engaged, I think is the word, and real time engagement.
I think that is the big thing about technology. Does not really, it exposes us for who we really are. If we have a bad product, it will expose us. If we have a good product, it will expose us, positively. And where you're right is that I think the one thing that has changed is that as an exporter, you now need to actually communicate with your consumer, whereas before you could have gotten away by just communicating with your distributor and let them actually talk to the consumer. I think that is maybe one of the main changes, what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely right.
So Gerard, it's very interesting. If you look back over the years, I mean, you had a very interesting wine journey from, South Africa, then to the States, and then to London, and then back to South Africa, and then, you went to Paardeberg, and now you're on this journey. What is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Sure. Well, I think the one thing I've learned is that I shouldn't stop learning. Just when you think that you understand the business, it gets a bit more interesting and a bit more complicated. But if I really have to, say the one thing that has stood out for me, and that has really made a huge difference in my experience, is it's all about relationships. A relationship is something that will carry you through when it really gets tough. And we've seen that now in the past couple of weeks as well. People want to do business with people that they can trust, that they relate to, and that engages with them. So, that's the one thing that one must never, ever neglect in the wine business. it's a social product. It's a product that makes it easy for us to engage with one another. But it's really about relationships, and a lot of time and effort needs to go into building those, and it's something that you establish over time, but you continue to work on that. Yeah, maybe if I can add one more thing, at the business end, it's also about distribution. Route to market is so important. I've learned that you can have the best product in the world and the best message in the world, but without route to market, you're dead. So build those relationships, those distribution networks, those customer base relationships, and that's gonna just carry you through.
Well, amazing. Yeah, that's true. The platform that you to get your product or your message out is extremely important. So yes, you're right. So can you sum this all up with your very own or your favorite wine quote?
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'll make it pretty much about wine. And what I will say is, a wine's beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If it works for you, it is a good wine. I think we need to embrace the fact that there's a lot of diversity in our wine offering in South Africa. And we've got different terroirs and different expressions of it. And each one of those brands have got some consumer that is going to love it. And at the end of the day, if they like your wine, then it's a good wine.
Oh, awesome, Gerard. Gerard, thank you very much for your time. Just as a last thing, if people want to get hold of you guys, or they want to come and visit you, how do they get hold of you?
Easy information, of course, is found on our website, so www.paraberg.co.za. We've incidentally just revamped the platform, so it should be quite fresh. A lot of information there, and also email contacts, etc. Otherwise, they can of course phone the seller. Our telephone details are on there as well. Yeah, we happy to engage with anybody that would take the time to engage with our products. Maybe come and visit us. We'd love that.
Oh, that's awesome. So we'll put all the links down in the description of, where this is distributed so that people can get that. So I'm just looking in the description below. And Gerard, thank you very, very much. I know you're busy and you took a long time, and you gave us quite a bit of information, which is great. And I think our listeners will enjoy it. So thanks for spending the time.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been my pleasure, and I do wish you well, and whoever listens to this, please stay safe, but also stay positive.
I think that is a very important thing that you just said there. Stay positive, right? Because we need to keep our mental and our physical strength. Thank you. Thank you, Gerard.
My pleasure. All the best.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, we are talking to Giselle Coetzee. Giselle is the Sales and Marketing Manager, as well as the winemaker at Melisat Vineyards. Hi, Giselle.
Hi, Will. Thank you very much. It's nice to chat with you.
It's our pleasure. Tell me, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry?
Yes, well, I was born in Johannesburg, quite away from the winelands, but we always had wine in the house, and you kind of get curious about how wine is made, and we always came to the Cape for holidays. And when the Cape Doctor blew, we ended up at wineries tasting wine. And in those days, a lot of the winemakers and owners of the farms used to present the tastings, and this was so wonderful, and I loved the whole vibe about the industry. So eventually I started doing some wine courses in Johannesburg, and every holiday I spent in the Cape, and I completed my Cape Wine Academy Diploma 2 in those days. I didn't have the WSET courses then. I met my husband and we moved to Germany, and I became a wine consultant in Germany. And that really opened the world of wine to me. I was working in this wonderful shop, and we had over 1,200 different wines from all over the world. And my manager in those days said, "You can't sell a wine unless you know how it tastes." So we did quite a bit of tasting from everything, from white, rosé, bubbly, reds, anything. But eventually I came back to South Africa, and I met a winemaker that invited me to come and harvest for a couple of days. And then I decided, well, this is what I want to do. I want to make wine. I don't just want to drink it. And I enrolled at Elsenburg, and I completed my studies in 2013. And since then, I've been loving what I'm doing, making wine, and then obviously selling wine, and also doing the marketing side.
Wow, what a story. That's so interesting. So, can you tell us a little bit of the history of Melisat Vineyards?
Yes, Melisat Vineyards is a boutique winery in Paarl. It's situated close to the Huguenot Tunnel, so it's the other side of Paarl town. And the farm dates back to 1693, so the original Dekkers Vlei farm. And the current owner, Stephen Richardson, bought the farm in 1997, and he started making wine in 1999. In those days, the farm only grew Chenin Blanc, which was delivered to one of the co-ops here in Paarl. And he then decided, no, I don't want to just make white wine. So he started replanting, and he kept the oldest 2 blocks of Chenin Blanc. The farm is not that big. It's about 13 hectares, and we've got 8 hectares under vine, and then we also have guava orchards. So Stephen, he is a farmer. He's got a farm in the UK, but he doesn't grow grapes there. He grows barley, wheat, and sugar beet. But he's very passionate about wine, so he decided now he needs to purchase a farm where he can actually make some wine. And that is how he ended up in South Africa.
Oh, what a nice story. So you guys are part of the Paarl wine route, so welcoming visitors to your farm. So what can a guest experience when visiting Melisat?
Well, we are very small, so firstly, when people visit our farm, they may see Stephen or myself or one of the other guys working in the cellar there. And when we're all busy, all of us has a turn to be in the tasting room and present our wine. So we're very proud to be passionate and very personal about our wine tasting, and we want people to experience our passion. So when we do our wine tastings, there's always stories to tell about a wine, where it comes from, why we make a wine in a specific style. We also have Cemetery of Forgotten Wines, which is a bizarre collection of old wines from all over the world and from South Africa, that people can view in our underground cellar. And then we also have a couple of food offerings. So people can really just spend the day there in the beautiful farm looking at our mountains.
Wow, that sounds awesome. So your wines that you're producing, can you tell us a little bit more about that, and also your own winemaking philosophy?
Well, Melasat is famous for our white pinotage. We were the first in the world to make a white pinotage in 2007. And so people come from far afield to come and taste the wine, because first they can't believe that there is a white pinotage on the market. So we like to experiment. We do things slightly different to other farms. And we produce also, apart from the white pinotage, Cabernet Sauvignon. We've got Tempranillo, Viognier, then also Chardonnay, and then an unwooded white blend. We've got a wonderful red blend, and also a Shiraz and a Shiraz Rosé. So our range of wines are quite big for a small winery, but you cover basically all tastes in wine. Our philosophy is that we like to make wines that reflect the terroir of our area. So Paarl is quite a warm area. We've got granite soils. So there was attention to detail when we chose the rootstock and the clones for our vineyards. And we want the terroir to show in our wine, and you can actually taste that. We also, our wine style is European. It's not New World. Stephen, because he grew up on European wines, he always wanted to make wines that can age a bit longer. And our wood component is never too much. That doesn't overpower our wine. It must just add a little bit of elegance and complexity to our wine.
So that's so interesting. So especially the story about the white pinotage, where did this idea come from?
Well, the white pinotage, we made it, well, Stephen made the first barrel in 2007, and in the late 1990s, early 2000s, red pinotage was hammered in Europe, especially in Britain, for having rubbery and acetone flavors. And I think our South African palates were just used to those flavors, and we thought, well, that is what pinotage is about. But the British wine connoisseurs said, no, that is a wine fault. And a lot of research was done on that, and it is actually a winemaking fault. But Stephen's train of thought was in those days, well, those flavors are on the skins of the grapes. So if I eliminate the skin, let's see what happens. So he made the one barrel and he sold it at a wine show in Joburg, the content of that barrel. So thought, well, maybe there's a market for this. And then slowly he increased the production. And since 2012, we haven't produced red pinotage.
What an amazing story. So where are your wines sold? Mostly in South Africa, I presume, or are you exporting?
Both really. Locally, our wines are available in more specialist wine shops. We also, it's also available in the Eastern Cape, where we're doing quite well with our wine. Also in Gauteng. And then we're not really in big supermarkets because our production is too small. We produce about 40,000 bottles a year, so that has to cover our local market and exports. And our exports are mainly to Europe, so we're looking at Germany. We just sent a shipment during lockdown to the Netherlands, which safely arrived earlier this week, and then to Denmark, and then also the UK, then a little bit to the US, and we've also exported to Argentina.
Wow, that's quite interesting. Exporting to Argentina. I didn't expect that.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, the first winery I've spoken to that's actually mentioned that, so that's quite something for the books. So you mentioned a little bit about the. Sorry, did you want to say something about the Argentina stuff?
Yeah, that was an interesting one because from there our wines eventually ended up in Peru as well. So we've been in touch with some sommeliers and wine shops in South America because of that one export to Argentina, the original one.
I quickly want to share something exciting. I have heard via the grapevine that the Fishwives Club will be launching a new lifestyle club soon. If you have not heard of the Fishwives Club yet, just know that you are probably missing out on the sexiest wine label out there. To stay in the loop, please quickly go and follow them on Instagram. The Instagram handle is @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Let me repeat that, @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Now, on with the show.
So you mentioned the lockdown, and you know, we know that the coronavirus has forced almost everyone to rethink their business models. Do you guys have any changes or any new ideas in place?
Well, this whole lockdown influenced everyone, and the first couple of days was quite you feel like you're in a maze and you can't get out of there because you make a plan and you start working on it and then things change. So one thing that we've learned is that you have to be able to adapt quite fast, and that how important relationships are. And we were lucky that we started selling direct to customer. That's a new avenue that we explored beginning of the year. And that really worked for us during this. So a lot of people were ordering online. Also how it's different communicating with your customers in a digital way. So now you have to really rely on social media to get your message across. People can't taste your wine, so you have to kind of tell a story and make it a little bit visual. So we developed a social media plan, which was kind of in the pipeline, but we had to put it together quite fast to just reach our customers all over the place. And the other important thing is your relationships with your suppliers, your production team, your staff, everybody down the line. You need to keep in touch, and you need to be kind of positive about it, not negative. And it just it actually developed quite a few relationships, which was nice for us.
That's quite interesting. So do you think that social media is going to become more important going forward for your marketing?
It will, yes. Because we're such a small team, we have to be able to do everything. And because we couldn't get people to the farm, our tasting room manager, Alzan, she used to do a little bit of our social media, but now she's just doing social media. And it's not just posting, doing normal posts on Twitter and Facebook. It was also putting videos together and making it more interesting. And our follow-ship on those social media platforms really grew over the last 8 weeks, which we are very happy about. So we gained a lot of new followers, and people actually ordered wine. So that was very positive for us.
That is awesome. I see you also have a wine club. So can you tell us a little bit more about the wine club?
Yes, the wine club started about 2013, and it is expanding at the moment. And it's nice that people join, and it's quite easy. People can join, and they only have to buy 24 bottles a year. But we also have a wine club day. So if people order the allocated amount of wines, we invite them to the farm, and basically we entertain our clients where we will launch new wines, and they will get access to some of the experimental wines which is not for sale in the trade. So we try to keep it very interesting for the wine club. And we've got quite a few members all over the country. It's not just here in the Western Cape. So in future, because of now all of this as well, we were thinking to not just having an open day at the farm, but also do it in the various provinces where we can invite our wine club members to come and join us and meet us and taste some new wine.
I think that's a clever idea, because I think the local market for everybody is going to become so much more important with possible tourist restrictions as well.
Yes, and apart from that, because I travel quite a lot, and Stephen as well, the owner, we go to these areas so they can come and basically meet the winemaking team. And it's not just a marketing person or a local agent that comes and do the wine tastings. It's actually some people from the farm, which I found over the years actually works quite well to promote your product, not just to rely on your local agent or representative.
Yeah, I think that personal touch, Matt, you know, for every brand, just are starting to matter so much more, you know, in your modern day, and especially now that people are, like you said, things like social media, to actually engage with your customers is becoming an art.
It is, and it's becoming more difficult because there's so much competition out there. Every winery wants to get their wine on a shelf or in somebody's home. So the personal touch really means something to the clients, especially when they're far away.
Yes. So, Giselle, your wine journey, what is the most important thing that you've learned?
Well, through the years, it's for me from a winemaking side is to understand your terroir, because we want to make wine that actually speak from that area. It must be very distinct, and it takes years to know your area and your parcels in your vineyards. So it's an ongoing learning curve, really, and it's a wonderful journey just to learn about that. And in our area, we've noticed with a couple of farms in the area that there's a very specific flavor profile where we are, which is totally different to the other side of Paarl. The other thing that is always also important for me is the relationships that you build over the years. Doesn't matter who you talk with. The wine industry is actually a very positive industry, and people are always willing to help and share ideas. And especially like a difficult harvest, you can speak to other winemakers and they will share their ideas and how they solve their problems. And that is very important. And it's a wonderful journey that in itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one thing I've learned by interviewing a lot of winemakers and people